The next page is the cover of Nintendo Dream Volume 84, featuring the Game Boy Advance SP. It highlights The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, and Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, and the cover promotes an interview with Kazumi Ida about Zelda. It mentions Metroid Prime and Metroid Fusion for the GameCube and GBA, along with the game Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life, a Nintendo puzzle collection, and Giftpia. A section announces the appearance of Link in Soul Calibur 2. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo GameCube Wavebird wireless controller. It highlights the freedom from cords and the benefits of wireless play. Key features mentioned include a maximum communication distance of approximately 6 meters, about 100 hours of continuous use with alkaline batteries, and 16 channels to prevent interference during multiplayer sessions. The advertisement also notes that the Wavebird does not have a vibration function. The next page is an advertisement for the Nintendo GameCube Wavebird wireless controller, with an image of a hand holding the controller while playing The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. It shows a clean, minimalist setup with the controller and a Nintendo GameCube connected to a flat panel screen, highlighting the wireless experience. The next page is an advertisement for the Batman Dark Tomorrow game, with an image of Batman. It mentions a release date of March 2003 and features logos for Batman, DC Comics, and Kemco. The next page is the table of contents for Nintendo Dream Volume 84, released on February 21, 2003. It features a cover story on The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, including an interview with Koji Murata and Kazunobu Ida discussing the game. The page highlights key aspects of the Tingle system, and a Namco fighting game appearance of Link from Zelda. Other featured games include Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, Soul Calibur 2, and Metroid Prime, with details on Nintendo Puzzle Collection and Giftpia. There's also coverage of Sonic Adventure DX, Dragon Quest Monsters, Caravan Heart, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life, PN.03, and Mega Man Battle Network Transmission. The Game Index lists reviews and articles for games on the Nintendo GameCube and Game Boy Advance. GC titles like Wario World, Evolution Snowboarding, Eternal Arcadia Legend, and Generation of Chaos Exceed are listed. GBA titles include RPG Tsukuru Advance, Inuyasha, and Shin Megami Tensei. Regular segments such as Nintendo Q&A, Monthly Turbo, Mario Core, Dry Tech Hall, Animal Crossing plus Town Pride Festa, Transl Town Pokemon Hall, and Sega Soul are also listed. This page is an advertisement for The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker Strategy Guide, a Nintendo Dream publication. It's scheduled for release on January 25th. The guide promises to cater to both Zelda novices and veterans, providing detailed walkthroughs from Outset Island to the final boss. The cover features Link wielding the Wind Waker, priced at 950 yen and spans 144 pages. The page also features character icons and brief descriptions, such as a character who wants to play at their own pace and use the Adventurer's Guide, a character with large lucky stickers, and a feature that helps you achieve a complete collection of Nintendo figures, as well as encouragement to visit the bookstore with friends to purchase it. The editorial staff used a hand-drawn map of the Great Sea, divided into 49 areas, and the editor talks about the importance of recording findings and strategies on a personal map while playing the game. The next page is a Reader's Prize draw from Nintendo Dream. They're giving away a variety of items, including a Nintendo GameCube console, a Game Boy Advance SP, Pokémon Ruby and Pokémon Sapphire t-shirts signed by Junichi Masuda and Ken Sugimori, the Giant Doshin game also with a signature, Acrobat Kids, Dual Blades, Elemix Game Boy Advance games, Pokémon GBA cases, and Pikmin magnets. This page is a Nintendo Dream headline, highlighting upcoming game releases and events for January to March 2003. The article notes how quickly 2002 passed and announces the upcoming Game Boy Advance SP, a stylish, folding GBA with a front light. It emphasizes the February 14th release date and suggests the GBA SP as a Valentine's Day gift. The GBA SP will be available in Platinum Silver, Azurite Blue, Onyx Black, and Pearl White. It also mentions that the next issue of Nintendo Dream will be released on February 21st. A monthly calendar lists game release dates and events. January 21st, Nintendo Dream Volume 84, January 22nd, Kirby DVD Volume 6, January 23rd, Biohazard 2, Biohazard 3 Last Escape, January 24th, Atelier Marie, Ellie, and Anis. February 6th, Generation of Chaos Exceed.
February 7th, Nintendo Puzzle Collection. February 14th, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Metroid Fusion, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, GBASP Bundle, and the release of the GBASP itself. February 21st, Puzzle Mahjong, Kuru Kurupan, Pro Mahjong 3 GBA, Female Night Challenge, and Roadrunner. Nintendo Dream Volume 85. February 28th, Metroid Prime. March 6th, Rockman XE and Dokapon DX.
This page is a Nintendo Dream ranking of the top 20 best-selling Nintendo games and most anticipated upcoming titles, aggregated from the publication's 83rd volume. The top-selling games chart lists titles for the Game Boy Advance, GameCube, and other Nintendo platforms from December 16, 2002 to January 5, 2003. Pokémon Sapphire and Ruby versions dominate the top spots, followed by Mario Party 4, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, and Rockman.x3. Other games on the list include Kirby, Nightmare in Dreamland, Sonic Advance 2, Super Mario Advance 3, and Biohazard 0. The second chart lists the top 20 most anticipated upcoming games. The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past and Four Swords leads the list, followed by Animal Crossing 2, Star Fox, Kirby Air Ride, and Metroid Prime. Other anticipated games include Mario Kart GC, Nintendo Puzzle Collection, Pikmin 2, and Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. The page includes analysis of Pokémon's strong performance and highlights several new Nintendo titles also ranking highly. It explores the reason for the GBA Zelda's top ranking and what fans are looking forward to in the new Animal Crossing. There's also a survey about what readers bought for Christmas and New Year, noting the popularity of Zelda games and the need for extra controllers for multiplayer games. This page is a feature on the Game Boy Advance SP, subtitled Nintendo Dream Monthly 1/2 News, calling it the GBA Turbo. The article begins with, Top News, Small, Light, Bright, Anticipated GBA High-End Model Launch Report. It mentions the GBA SP's release date of February 14th and a price of 12,500 yen.
The article is broken into sections. Check.
Thinner buttons talks about the buttons being thinner on the GBA SP and how it makes the unit more compact when folded.
Check.
Front light makes the entire screen brighter. Discusses the front light and its ability to illuminate the screen, and the orange light when the front light is active. And
check.
Screen angle can be fixed in 3 stages.
Talks about the screen's ability to lock in different positions.
The page also mentions the ESP's expansion terminal equipment and the need for an adapter for headphones because of the lack of a headphone jack. There is also a reference to a new expansion terminal. Finally, the page shows the 3 launch colors: Azurite Blue, Platinum Silver, and Onyx Black. It also has a table with power, battery life, size, weight, and sound specifications for the GBA SP and original GBA. The next page features the Game Boy Player, promoting it as a great way to enjoy Game Boy Advance games on your TV. It highlights the March 21st release date. The article emphasizes that even though the Game Boy Advance SP might be more popular, the Game Boy Player offers a great experience for playing GBA games. It checks off 6 menu options, including frame customization around the screen, screen size options from normal to full, controller settings for GameCube controllers, image options like normal, soft, or sharp, timer settings, and changing game cartridge without turning off the device.
A feature that may have been available on some Japanese consoles.
There's a segment on how to easily install the Game Boy Player and how to eject cartridges. A small news blurb about comments from Nintendo's former president, Hiroshi Yamauchi. The page also announces a Final Fantasy Tactics Advance and Game Boy Advance SP bundle launching February 14th. That includes a pearl white GBA SP. There is an advertisement for the L-Mode Final Fantasy Tactics Advance website. Finally, it introduces a new digital controller from Hori, designed specifically for the Game Boy Player, releasing on February 21st, priced at 1,500 yen, mentioning that it is optimal for games like Nintendo Puzzle Collection. The controller is inspired by the Super Famicom. The next page highlights several Nintendo games and merchandise. First, it introduces new Animal Crossing Plus figures from Takara, allowing you to create your own village. These include figures of villagers, furniture, houses, and more. There are sets that include figures and houses, as well as additional field pieces to expand your village. Next, the page promotes the Kirby Right Back at Ya anime, listing the episode titles, The School Bully Returns, and Delivery Days, and provides brief summaries of each episode. Finally, the page advertises Dragon Quest bottle cap figures from Enix, featuring monsters from the series and boasting improved quality and new additions. They also showcase Phantasy Star Online figures from Eugene, as well as Fire Emblem figures, highlighting the detailed designs and limited availability. 64 Dream Magazine highlights recommended games from Mario Club, focusing on Metroid Fusion for its incremental abilities and evolving enemies. Magazine also announces a new version of the Code Warrior GameCube development tool and a bundled TDEV hardware package, aiming to boost game development. Upcoming demo events at the World Hobby Fair in major Japanese cities will feature F-Zero GC and The Legend of Zelda, Four Swords, GBA. Other Nintendo releases mentioned include Nintendo Puzzle Collection, Kurin Paradise, and Mario Party 4. Finally, a Masuzu Links News Dream section features artwork and dialogue regarding new 3D models in a Legend of Zelda game. The next page features an interview with Kazutoshi Ida about The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. He begins by mentioning his experience of buying Mario Sunshine on launch day. Ida discusses his impressions of The Wind Waker, praising its visual style and music, noting the game evokes a sense of nostalgia and is reminiscent of the original Legend of Zelda. He also highlights the immersive nature of the game, praising its camera work. Ida compares the experience of the game to Star Fox 64, and concludes by adding that it felt like an adventure he was experiencing with Zelda. Kazutoshi Ida, in an interview about The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, praises the game's cinematic quality, smooth transitions, and enjoyable puzzles. He highlights the game's open seas and freedom, the atmospheric dungeons, and the satisfying feel of the spin attack and grass cutting. Despite occasionally getting lost in dungeons and needing help defeating bosses like Goma, Ida appreciates the game's balance and toon rendering style. He prefers the lighter tone compared to previous Zelda titles and enjoys exploring the islands, often getting sidetracked from the main story. The interview includes images of the game, including Link at Sea and Goma. The next page features an interview with Kazutoshi Ida, discussing his impressions of The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. He jokes that even though the island is good, people cannot leave. Ida appreciates that when coming back from the island, you feel at home, and that the interactions with people deepen the experience. He also mentions that it's nice to return to this island after a long adventure. Ida feels that The Wind Waker has a superior tempo and flow compared to previous Zelda games. He also mentions that his favorite is the original, The Legend of Zelda, The Triforce. He also mentions that the designer said it was influenced by the first Zelda. He also talks about what he wanted to be surpassed. Ida admires the attention to detail, mentioning how Link leaves footprints when emerging from the sea. He also talks about the difficulty of the game, but notes that even the UI is well designed. Ida marvels at the amount of detail that the developers have put into the game, and how the enemy A is as well. This page features a special interview with Kazutoshi Ida about The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Ida talks about how he enjoys the music and the tempo of battles in Wind Waker, comparing the combat to a dance. He jokes about wanting more time to dance with enemies. Ida mentions that it is a soft game, and he wants to find something to criticize. He also jokes about the game being so well done. Ida is asked about what he would like to do next, and he jokingly suggests creating a reverse Zelda game. He also expresses his love for the GameCube. He discusses difficulties like the small staff and bad teamwork, but that they will still aim to make a Zelda game that is truthful. He talks about how to expand the GameCube users, and suggests The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, is a treasure. He also mentions being excited for Suda51's Killer 7, and is impressed by the passion of the developers creating games, mentioning how it's good to support the games. He mentions that he recently got an iPod, and that he feels a sense of excitement with it.
Ida jokes that the reader can get the hint of how to clear giant Dawston.
The next page is an advert for The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, on the Nintendo GameCube. The page highlights some of the secrets and fun aspects of the game, focusing on Tingle and ways to enjoy the game from different angles. It mentions hidden secrets, Tingle's mysteries, and other content that can be enjoyed. There's also information from readers about Doriteku techniques and Game Boy Advance Zelda games. The page warns about spoilers and mentions new strategy guide content for Iceberg Isle. This page is all about The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, with a focus on Tingle and the Game Boy Advance connectivity features. It details how connecting a GBA allows Tingle to offer hints and support. You can even unlock special events at specific locations, like Outset Island and Windfall Island. The page also offers tips on becoming familiar with Tingle's actions on Windfall Island, suggesting players use the Tingle tuner there first. A trial mode appears on the GBA screen, guiding players through the controls. Using Tingle bombs on the small island south of Zunari's shop will reveal a pot with 10 rupees, or how to find a special bench. It introduces Knuckle in the sandy beach of Outset Island, who gives you a quest to find 4 locations. Completing it rewards you with the Tingle tuner, which allows you to buy items with the GBA. The page then reveals how to get cheaper items. Entering the pot on the first floor of the private oasis will cut the price of Tingle items in half, or riding the cloth roof in the School of Joy will cut the price by 10 rupees. The effects of the Tingle Seed are explained. One random effect occurs when used, and the effects range from getting Tingle Blue, nothing happening, or having the Tingle Shield and Tingle Hover effects for a short period of time. The next page is all about finding Tingle statues in The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. It explains that these statues are hidden in dungeons and can only be found with Tingle's help, and that each dungeon has one. The page then provides a map for Dragon Roost Cavern showing the path to the Tingle statue. It details how to find 50 rupees by using a Tingle bomb in a specific room after meeting a certain message condition. It also explains how to use Tingle bombs on a seemingly empty spot on the first floor to reveal a treasure chest containing the Dragon Tingle statue. The statues can be viewed on the GBA item screen. It mentions there are 5 kinds of Tingle statues. This page continues the guide on finding Tingle statues in The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. It focuses on the Forbidden Woods dungeon of them. The page shows a map of the dungeon, marking the location of the Tingle statue. It explains that Tetra will give you hints, and that 50 rupees can be found in a specific room on the second floor. You need to use a Tingle bomb on a seemingly empty spot to reveal a treasure chest. The page also shows where the Forbidden Tingle statue is hidden on the bottom floor, and how to use Tingle bombs on a hidden platform in the biggest room to find the statue. It also features a tip about Tingle's reactions when approaching boss rooms, stating he will come up with various excuses not to enter. The next page continues the guide for finding Tingle's hidden pages in The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, focusing on the Tower of the Gods dungeon. The page presents a map of the Tower of the Gods, with labels indicating the locations of 5 hidden legend pages on the first and second floors. It mentions that approaching these locations will trigger a response from Tingle. The guide also gives specific instructions on how to obtain each page, often involving using the grappling hook, Deku Leaf, or destroying obstacles with the hammer or bombs. The strategy guide also briefly touches on what happens after you collect all the pages, suggesting you go to the pillar in the central room on the second floor to use the GBA link functionality. The next page is a walkthrough for finding the Tingle statue in The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. It features a map of the Earth Temple dungeon and step-by-step instructions, showing players how to use Tingle bombs to progress through the dungeon, specifically highlighting the use of Deku Leaves and Tingle bombs to navigate past enemies. It mentions that Link can receive 50 rupees from Knuckle for each Tingle statue collected on Tingle Island, and can even throw them in the ocean. The next page provides a guide to quickly clearing 2 islands in The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. The challenge involves completing both the Volcano Island and Ice Ring Isle within a 5-minute time limit. The Volcano Island section covers how to rapidly ascend the volcano by freezing magma with ice arrows and using spin attacks to shorten travel time. It highlights defeating Magtails quickly with special attacks to obtain treasure. The Ice Ring Isle section focuses on melting the ice with fire arrows, then navigating the slippery surfaces with the Wind Waker to alter wind direction and using Deku Leaves for shortcuts. Players must also use spin attacks to navigate windy paths, revealing a treasure chest upon completion. This page from the magazine highlights enemy behavior in The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, emphasizing that enemies are as detailed and varied as Link himself. The page spotlights several enemies, including the Bokoblin, which is encouraged to be sneak attacked for comical results. Moblins are also featured, showcasing different ways to deal with them, such as using the hookshot to steal their skull necklaces, or stunning them with the boomerang. The Darknut is also shown, demonstrating how they fight bare-handed after losing their sword.
The page also illustrates the effect of ice arrows on enemies, freezing them solid.
Additionally, the Floormaster and the Minoblin are included, with hints to use the hammer to defeat the Floormaster and the hammer to stun the Minoblins. The page encourages readers to discover all the fun aspects of the game. The next page features the character illustration extravaganza for The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, originally titled The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap and Four Swords. It presents character illustrations of Link, Princess Zelda, and Vati, localized as Vati, written as Agah Neem in the Japanese text. The page notes the illustrations have a realistic style, differentiating them from the Wind Waker style. It briefly details Link's adventure, mentioning he's awakened by a mysterious voice and heads to the castle. Zelda is described as wearing beautiful clothes and being rescued by Link. Vati is introduced as an evil priest trying to harm Zelda, and the text implies he is the one Link needs to defeat. Screenshots are included, showing Link exploring the castle and facing Vati. This page is about The Legend of Zelda: Four Swords. It mentions the artwork shares a similar style to the Wind Waker. The page introduces the four Links, created by the power of the Four Sword, who resemble the Link from the Wind Waker. The goal of the game is to rescue Princess Zelda from Vasati. This version of Zelda has a similar look to the Zelda from the Wind Waker, but her clothing and hair are different.
There's a section called Wind Waker One More Time, Reader's Secret Techniques Edition.
It highlights player tips, including using the seagull to go to the ocean theme song, diving under bridges, writing words with bombs, like Nintendo. The page shows how players are finding secrets and creating fun experiences within the game. The next page showcases Link from The Legend of Zelda, appearing in Soul Calibur 2 on the Nintendo GameCube. The page highlights Link's inclusion as a guest character in the game. It features action shots of Link in the Ayutthaya Royal Palace stage in Thailand, performing sword dances and showcasing his smooth moves using the Master Sword. The reviewer is excited about Link's presence in the game. Game information includes the title Soul Calibur 2, the developer Namco, and the release date, March 27th. The genre is fighting action, supporting 12 players. This page is all about Link from The Legend of Zelda joining the fight in Soul Calibur 2. The article emphasizes Link's sword skills with the Master Sword, challenging warriors, samurai, and monsters alike, as well as fighting game action. It mentions how Link, known for his appearances in The Legend of Zelda and Super Smash Bros., is making his debut in a Namco game. The page also notes that Link's moveset will feature familiar attacks like downward thrusts, three-hit combos, and projectile weapons like arrows and boomerangs, similar to his Super Smash Bros. DX counterpart. The reviewer wonders what kind of battles Link will have against characters like Mitsurugi and Kilik. The article confirms that Link has some moves similar to Super Smash Bros. DX, including upward thrusts, downward thrusts, spinning slashes, and a three-hit combo. It notes that Soul Calibur 2 characters have over 100 moves each, and Link will have additional new techniques. The article highlights Link's weapons, emphasizing his mastery of projectile weapons. The boomerang's trajectory is shown, and it's noted that Link is the first character in Soul Calibur 2 to use projectile weapons. Although not pictured, bombs might also be available. The page showcases his special moves like arrow shots, spinning slashes, a powerful sword attack.
The next page showcases several characters from Soul Calibur 2. Kilik, a monk wielding a staff, Xianghua, a sword-wielding warrior, Maxi, a nunchuck user, Mitsurugi, a samurai with a katana, Taki, a ninja with twin swords, and Ivy, a dominatrix-style fighter with a bladed whip. The text describes Soul Calibur 2 as a 3D weapons-based fighting game, emphasizing 8-way run, allowing players to move freely around the arena. It highlights the strategic depth of the combat system, where players can evade attacks by sidestepping and counterattack. Vertical and horizontal slashes and movement are also highlighted, emphasizing the importance of reading your opponent's actions. The next page introduces several characters from Soul Calibur, a weapons-based fighting game. Talim, the last priestess of the wind, wields a pair of Sejinkai. Raphael, a fallen noble, fights with a rapier. Hong Yun-sung, a young Korean searching for the sword of salvation, uses a Chinese dao. Cassandra, the sister of a holy warrior, wields a small sword and shield. The page also features Voldo, a guardian of hidden treasures, using Katar. Nightmare, a swordman controlled by Soul Edge, wielding a great sword. And Astaroth, a war golem, wielding a giant axe. The text notes the game has 15 playable characters, each with a unique fighting style and destiny. It also mentions that characters have unique moves, and some are better at kicking. There is also a screenshot of Link from the Legend of Zelda fighting Hong Yun-sung, showcasing that each character has its own storyline and animations. This page unveils a new character named Necrid, designed by Todd McFarlane, the creator of Spawn. Necrid is described as the 15th warrior, a mysterious figure shrouded in mystery. The text suggests Necrid's left arm might be his weapon, changing shape to suit the situation. It's compared to Ivy's snake sword, hinting at the ability to freely manipulate its form, or even automatically adapt to different techniques. The page also introduces a new Weapon Master mode, where players travel the world, obtain rare weapons, and collect them. These weapons are actually equipable. This mode is reminiscent of the Edge Master mode from the original Soul Edge. The text speculates that players will be able to find unusual weapons like bamboo swords, laser blades, and invisible swords. The reviewer imagines that Necrid is a power-type character, like Astaroth or Nightmare. Screenshots showcase Necrid in action, wielding a single large blade, or two swords, indicating a fast-paced fighting style. The page questions if Necrid's sword can change shape and discusses a new fighting style. The next page is an interview with the developers of Soul Calibur 2, where they discuss various aspects of the game. The developers wanted to create a game that captured the essence of 16th century warfare. They wanted the game to feel natural and feature dynamic 3D environments. The music has to be engaging and each character distinct. The game has 10 stages set in locations around the world. The developers chose Link as a guest character for the Nintendo GameCube version due to his iconic status and compatibility with the Soul Calibur universe. The developers address the addition of Necrid and say it's a collaboration with Todd McFarlane. The developers added Necrid to the game to allow players to change and use all different kinds of weapons and fighting styles. The developers talk about the difficulty of porting a game to different platforms and the challenges involved in creating a compatible OS. The developers say the team is working hard to make the game enjoyable for all fans. The page also mentions the hidden characters in the other versions, Heihachi for the PS2 and Spawn for the Xbox. This page serves as a strategy guide for the final stages of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire on the Game Boy Advance. It provides a walkthrough from Route 127 onwards, covering how to navigate to the Pokemon League and challenge the Elite Four and Champion. The guide features key characters you'll encounter, including Team Aqua/Magma members like Courtney, the Elite Four members Sydney, Phoebe, Glacia, and Drake, and the champion Steven Stone. There's also a brief overview of what to do in areas like Route 127, underwater caves, and the Cave of Origin. A notable highlight is a focus on champion Steven Stone. The next page continues the strategy guide for Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, detailing how to navigate through Route 127 and beyond to reach the underwater caves. It emphasizes the use of dive in Route 127 to find the entrance to the underwater caves. The guide showcases maps for both above and below the water in Route 127 and Route 128, highlighting areas where players can dive to explore the underwater caves. There's also mention of hidden locations where players can create secret bases and trainer locations such as Jun, Sayaka, Natsumi, and Kusaku along Route 127. This page continues the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire strategy guide, focusing on how to navigate the Cave of Origin. To progress deep within, the moves Strength and Rock Smash are required. The guide shows maps for the interior of the cave, from Area 1 to Area 9, with item locations marked by letters. It mentions that in Ruby, you'll battle Maxie, leader of Team Magma, and in Sapphire you'll fight Archie, leader of Team Aqua. Victory leads to the awakening of the legendary Pokemon Groudon, Ruby, or Kyogre, Sapphire, causing extreme weather. The page also includes a map of Route 126, highlighting the underwater entrance to Sootopolis City, which requires the use of dive. Finally, the types of Pokemon used by Maxie and Archie are shown, as well as the trainers you will encounter. The next page details more of the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire walkthrough. Specifically in Sootopolis City, the guide explains how to talk to Steven Stone to access the Cave of Origin and how to measure a Wailmer in a house. It also shows a map of the city, including the location of the gym, Pokemon Center, and other key areas. Additionally, the page focuses on the Sootopolis Gym, outlining the gym puzzle where you must navigate through a series of ice tiles. The team members used by gym leader Wallace are listed, along with the trainers you'll encounter on your way to Wallace. This page continues the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire walkthrough, this time focusing on the Cave of Origin, which is dark, so the move flash is highly recommended. The guide details how to obtain 07 waterfall on the third basement floor, emphasizing that you need the rain badge to use it outside of battle. It also explains the process of battling either Groudon in Ruby or Kyogre in Sapphire on the fourth basement floor, recommending the use of Hyper Balls to catch them, and lists some of their moves to look out for in battle, such as Groudon's build-up and Kyogre's Mind Reader, as well as advice on how to defeat them. The next page continues the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire walkthrough, offering a checklist of events players may have missed during their journey. It advises leveling up Pokemon, earning money, and reaching at least level 50 before challenging the Elite Four. The guide revisits the Trick House on Route 110, where players can earn rewards from the Trick Master after completing his puzzles. Players can also revisit New Mauville on Route 110 after clearing the Team Aqua/Team Magma base in Lilycove City and obtaining the key from Watson to turn off the generator, after which Watson will reward you with TM24 Thunderbolt. The walkthrough also covers the abandoned ship on Route 108, accessible via Surf and Dive, where TM13 Ice Beam can be found. It also details the Shoal Cave on Route 125, where the tide changes, and rare items can be found. Finally, it touches on the Sealed Chamber on Route 134, which houses the Regi Pokemon. Players will need to use specific moves to open the entrances to these locations, such as Dive. The page also mentions Safari Zone on Route 121, and highlights important Pokemon to catch there, such as Wobbuffet. The page describes how to encounter and catch Regirock, Regis, and Registeel, as well as describing their types and abilities. This page offers a final walkthrough strategy for Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire's Champion Road and Pokemon League. The guide details how to reach Champion Road from the Seiyu City Pokemon Center by heading east on Route 128 and using Waterfall to ascend the waterfall. It suggests preparing your team for the challenging battles ahead, emphasizing the need for Pokemon that know hidden machines like Surf, Waterfall, Strength, and Dive. It also recommends stocking up on recovery items like Soda Pop from the Lilycove department store and escape ropes. The page includes a screenshot of Seiyu City and a map showing the route to Champion Road. The next page provides a walkthrough for navigating Champion Road to reach the Pokemon League in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. It explains that to pass through Champion Road, you need to descend to the second basement level and then ascend to the first floor from the exit side, noting that Waterfall may be necessary in some areas. The guide advises using Flash to illuminate surroundings in dark areas and includes maps for each level. The page highlights a battle with Mitsuru, Wally, a Pokemon trainer who has strengthened his team since the last encounter, and suggests using Ice-type Pokemon to gain an advantage in battle. Wally's team includes Pokemon like Swellow, Magneton, Roselia, Delcatty, and Kirlia. This page provides strategies for challenging the Elite Four and Champion in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. It emphasizes the need for a well-balanced team with Pokemon at least level 4,550 that can counter Dark, Ghost, Ice, Dragon, and Steel types. The page advises stocking up on items like Hyper Potions and Full Restores. The guide gives specific tips for the first two Elite Four members. For Sydney, Kagetsu, using Fighting-type moves is recommended against his Dark-type Pokemon such as Mightyena, Shiftry, Cacturane, Sharpedo, and Absol. For Phoebe, Fuyu, it suggests using Steel or defensively strong Pokemon to withstand her Ghost types like Dusclops, Banette, and Sableye, noting that her Dusclops knows Earthquake and Ice Beam. The next page continues the strategy guide for challenging the Elite Four and Champion Steven Stone in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. It focuses on Glacia, Prima, Drake, Genji,
and Steven. For Glacia, the guide recommends using Fighting Seal-type moves to quickly defeat her Ice-type Pokemon, noting that her Glalie and Celio have dual water types, making Fighting and Electric-type moves effective. It suggests being cautious of Glacia's Walrein, which knows sheer cold. For Drake, it advises using Ice-type moves to quickly defeat his Dragon-type Pokemon. Finally, for Steven, the guide recommends using Pokemon change tactics to exploit weaknesses. It suggests using Fire and Ground-type Pokemon against his first Pokemon Skarmory, and having Pokemon that are super effective against Steel-type Pokemon.
This page previews Metroid Prime. Samus's actions have left the space pirates in a state of ruin. A group of them seeks to rebuild, landing on planet Talon IV. They aim to use the mysterious energy known as Phazon, found on the planet, to mutate creatures and attempt a revival. Samus lands on the space pirate research vessel Orpheon. The article says that the ship is in orbit around Talon IV, and that Samus infiltrates the Orpheon, where she will witness the horrific experiments conducted using Phazon. A map of the Orpheon shows Samus landing in a red section. There's also a game information box that lists the title as Metroid Prime, the developer as Nintendo, the release date as February 28th, the price as 6,800 yen, the genre as shooting adventure, the number of players as 1, the memory card requirement as 3 blocks, and GCGBA cable support. The page also emphasizes that Orpheon serves as the introduction to the story and offers a preview of its adventure. The tagline reads, "Giant creatures injected with Phazon attack. Samus." The next page is titled, Metroid 2 Big Report Metroid Prime. It features 3 scenes from Metroid Prime, showcasing different areas and challenges. Scene 1. Release the barrier! Orpheon Halo. Shows Samus on the Orpheon, tasked with disabling a barrier. The text explains that she needs to shoot 4 lit switches to deactivate the barrier screen. Scene 2. Drive away the parasites. Alpha Deck. Depicts Samus exploring the Alpha Deck. The text describes encountering creatures born from Phazon experiments, as well as space pirates lying dead. Shooting the parasites, however, covers Samus's visor and impairs her vision temporarily. Scene 3. Download and get. The map room shows Samus in the map room. The text explains that after leaving the Alpha Deck, Samus will find parasites to pursue and a Morph Ball section. After using the Morph Ball, the map data can be downloaded. A System Check section highlights the Morph Ball feature, a staple of the Metroid series. It emphasizes the ability to access narrow passages and hints at frequent use throughout the game. The next page focuses on Metroid Prime, continuing the Metroid 2 Big Report. Scene 4, Break Through the Heavy Guard. Biological Experiment Site shows Samus exploring the biological experiment site. The text says that Samus has found a room that seems to be the site of biological experiments using Phazon, where creatures are made violent using Phazon, and warns the player to proceed with caution through the ominous environment. Scene 5, Move to the back of the spaceship. Freight Cargo features Samus in the freight cargo area. The text says that after defeating the enemies from the biological testing site, they will move on to the freight cargo area on a gondola. A System Check section details enemy takedowns and acquiring energy balls, which restore health. It also mentions how space pirates will attack to protect the experimental facilities, plus the functions of the combat visor, scan visor, thermovisor, and X-ray visor. The bottom section shows Samus riding the cargo, potentially heading to the spaceship's power plant, where the space pirates may be transporting Phazon. This page continues the Metroid Prime report with Scene 6, Defeat the Parasite Queen, Power Plant. It shows a map of the power plant area and discusses how Satumus encounters and battles the Parasite Queen after arriving in the power plant. The guide suggests attacking the blue barrier surrounding the Parasite Queen to deal damage. Defeating the Parasite Queen causes the power plant to explode, putting the spaceship in danger. Scene 7. Secure an escape route. Spaceship turned into a sea of fire. Depicts the aftermath of the explosion. The text explains that the ship is about to explode, and that Samus must secure an escape route. The ship is filled with debris and space pirates trying to escape. Samus has to navigate through the chaos and escape the ship. The next page continues the Metroid Prime report, featuring Scene 8, Samus's old enemy revived encounter with Meteridley. It shows a map and discusses how Samus encounters Meteridley while trying to escape the ship. Meteridley,
a creature previously defeated by Samus on Zebes, has been resurrected by the space pirates using Ridley's Drina and Feanaz substance. Then there's Scene 9. Failure due to explosion impact? Power suit malfunction. This scene shows how Samus's power suit malfunctions after being caught in an explosion during her escape. The power suit reverts to the normal suit, causing Samus to lose important abilities. The text questions if Samus can escape safely with these limitations. It also shows the normal suit and Various suit, alongside Samus being hit by a strong blast of energy, and her suit malfunctioning. This page continues the Metroid Prime report, focusing on Scene 10, chasing after Materidley to planet Talon IV. It details Samus's pursuit of Materidley to planet Talon IV, after escaping the crippled space pirate vessel, the Orpheon. With the aid of her spaceship, Samus had to evade her enemies with a series of jumps and grappling beam abilities. The page also explains the System Check, Giant Jump with Grappling Beam mechanic, highlighting how to use the grappling beam for large jumps in areas with unstable footing. The article explains a successful escape and asks, what awaits on Talon IV? It teases the challenges and encounters awaiting Samus on the planet, including powerful creatures and the mysteries surrounding Phazon. Samus is sure to meet Materidley once again, especially as her power suit has been compromised. The next page is a feature on Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance, highlighting the new abilities of Samus's upgraded power suit. The piece emphasizes the enhanced agility and action-oriented gameplay in the GBA version. The page highlights 3 new actions. New Action 1, allowing Samus to shoot in 5 directions while on ladders. New Action 2, where Samus can grab onto ledges and climb higher. And New Action 3, a rotational jump from a hanging position. Screenshots illustrate these abilities, showing Samus executing these moves in various in-game scenarios. The text emphasizes that these new actions open up previously inaccessible areas and create more dynamic gameplay. Also featured is information regarding the game's title as Metroid Fusion, developer as Nintendo, its release on February 14th, the game type as an action game, player count as 1, and GCGBA cable compatibility for those who wish to make the game compatible with the Nintendo GameCube. Finally, the price of the game is listed as 4,800 yen. This page focuses on Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance, specifically detailing how Samus Aran regains lost abilities after the initial loss of her power suit functions due to the X parasite. It explains that absorbing Core X parasites restores these abilities. These Core X are stronger versions of the regular X and can mimic other creatures. To restore her abilities, Samus must defeat the Core X in its mimicked form, then destroy the protective shell around its core using missiles and collect the core. A specific enemy, Malkara, a native creature of SR-388, is highlighted as a common mimic. Screenshots show Samus battling a Core X, mimicking Malkara, and demonstrate how to break the shell and absorb the core. The page also mentions obtaining abilities through data rooms, where backup support data can be downloaded. This is triggered by the navigation room computer. There is an example of a support ability, the Morph Ball ability. The next page is all about the upgrades and abilities Samus Aran can acquire in Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance. It mentions that early in the game, Samus loses most of her abilities. As she progresses, she regains these abilities by absorbing Core X parasites and finding data in data rooms. The page then details several of Samus's beam and missile weapon systems, along with bomb upgrades. For beams, it lists the normal beam, charge beam, wide beam, plasma beam, and wave beam. These are described with screenshots of Samus using them in gameplay. The missile section covers normal missiles, super missiles, ice missiles, and diffusion missiles, again with accompanying screenshots. The bomb section shows both the standard bomb and the power bomb. Finally, the page shows the Biologic Space Lab's research facility, the game's setting. It shows how the facility is divided into 6 sectors, each recreating different environments, including SR-388. The internal structure is illustrated, showing its division and the elevator system used to move between areas. The next page details Samus's special abilities and suits in Metroid Fusion. The special abilities section describes core moves like the Morph Ball for squeezing through tight spaces, High Jump to increase jump height, Speed Booster for high-speed dashing, Space Jump for mid-air rejumps, and Screw Attack for damaging enemies with a spinning jump. The suits section shows Samus's different suits. The starting fusion suit, which doesn't protect against extreme temperatures. the various suit for heat and cold protection, and the gravity suit for further damage reduction and underwater mobility. The page asks if suits can be powered up by downloading upgrades. There's also a spotlight on the Zebesian aliens, showing Samus using the screw attack on one. The text describes them as space pirates who want to use Metroid's power and are feared as cosmic outlaws. The bottom of the page highlights the B.SL research facility's sectors that recreate various environments, including SR-388, tropical, high temperature, aquatic, low temperature, and dark areas. Screenshots of Samus navigating these different environments are shown. This page advertises Nintendo Puzzle Collection for the GameCube, featuring Dr. Mario, Yoshi's Cookie, and Panel de Pon. It highlights the ability to play with up to 4 players and includes new features and updated graphics. The games can also be downloaded to the Game Boy Advance using the included GCGBA cable. The next page is a special report on the Dr. Mario game series, diving into its history and gameplay. It mentions different versions, including the FC Famicom, GB Game Boy, and SFC Super Famicom versions, highlighting the addition of a versus mode in the SFC edition. The page explains the basic gameplay of Dr. Mario, where players arrange capsules to eliminate viruses of 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow. 4 or more capsules or viruses of the same color in a row will eliminate them. The game ends when the capsules fill up the bottle. A section introduces new modes and characters, focusing on the story mode, where players can choose to play as either Mario or Wario, each with a unique storyline. The Versus Com mode features a variety of characters to play against. Finally, the Flash Virus mode is described, where players must eliminate flashing viruses to win. The Joy Carry version of Dr. Mario is mentioned, stating that the rules and controls are similar to the GameCube version. This page is all about Yoshi's Cookie, a puzzle game in the same vein as Dr. Mario. It delves into the history of the game and highlights various versions for the FC Famicom, GB Game Boy, and SFC Super Famicom, all released in the early to mid-90s. The core gameplay involves lining up cookies of the same shape in rows or columns to eliminate them. In the original rule set, clearing all cookies is the goal to beat the level. In the Versus mode, players earn cookie points by clearing cookies faster than their opponent. A hint mode is available to teach new players the rules and techniques. A special Yoshi cookie can clear any cookie type in the original mode and trigger attacks in Versus mode, hindering opponents. There's also a story mode featuring a unique art style, where Yoshi and his friends confront Bowser to reclaim stolen cookies. Finally, the Joy Carry version for the FC allows players to play a stage with all the cookies to be erased, and mentions the screen ratio being adjusted for the GBA monitor. The next page showcases Panel de Pon, also known as Tetris Attack, outside of Japan. It explores the game's history and various iterations. The core gameplay revolves around clearing panels by aligning 3 or more of the same type. Players can chain combos to disrupt opponents by sending garbage panels their way. It highlights the Super Famicom version from 1995 and the Game Boy version Yoshi no Panel de Pon from 1996, plus the Game Boy Color version Pokémon de Panel de Pon, which was released in 2000. The GameCube version features new character designs and a storyline where Frill, along with Kane and Tink, must restore the hearts and world of the fairies shattered by monster attacks. It also mentions the Joy Carry version with new modes and graphics and a mascot character, Pupuri, who guides the player. This page is dedicated to the Nintendo GameCube RPG Giftpia. The title itself, Giftpia, embodies the idea of a place filled with gifts from the creators to the players. The page acknowledges that details about the game are still shrouded in mystery, hinting that the game allows players to fulfill various wishes. It also suggests that there will be no combat in the traditional sense. Instead, players give gifts to make their opponents happy. The page also shines a spotlight on Keiichi Nishi, one of the creators involved in the game's development. It names some of his previous works, such as Moon, Incredible Crisis, and LOL Lack of Love. Nishi founded Skip Limited in 2000, the company behind Giftpia. The page shows some screenshots and notes the graphics are unique and appealing. The next page showcases the RPG Giftpia with the title, Fighting Alone Isn't What Makes an RPG. It's described as an alternative RPG. The text explains how Giftpia is not a typical RPG with a hero defeating enemies in a fantasy world. Instead, it focuses on the adventures of an ordinary boy. It mentions Mother as an early example of this type of RPG, enjoyed by a wide range of fans. The text suggests Giftpia aims to capture a similar audience. The author mentions that HSAN wants both adults and children to enjoy it. The game will be a surprise gift from Nintendo. The protagonist, Pakal, is described as being weak when it matters and sleeps in on the big day, leading to his absence from the coming-of-age ceremony, where he gets into trouble with the village chief. The author concludes with a note that the editors are not going to explain much to the readers to enjoy the experience. This page further explores the world of Giftpia. In Nanashi Island, Pakal, the protagonist, misses his coming-of-age ceremony, enraging the village chief. It will now cost 5 million inches main, the in-game currency, for the ceremony. We see screenshots of gameplay, including Pakal interacting with another character, Chibita-chan, and interiors of buildings with various trophies and awards. The page also introduces key characters. Cappy, the village chief's daughter, whose earrings resemble parts of the title logo, hinting at her importance, and the village chief himself, Mayor Maker, a stern figure who brings down lightning on Pakal. The text notes he is Cappy's father. This page continues the special report on Giftpia. The main narrative focuses on Pakal, who needs to earn money. Screenshots show Pakal in various locations, interacting with characters and animals. It highlights the unique island inhabitants, including robots and animals. The page introduces 2 more characters. Robot Cop Mappo, a police robot known for his unusual speech, and Yukio, a seemingly ordinary goat who may play a significant role in the story. There is also a character named Pakal, and the text questions whether he will grow up. This page is an advertisement for Sonic Adventure DX, the enhanced GameCube port of the original Dreamcast title, Sonic Adventure. The ad highlights the updated 3D graphics and action gameplay, noting that the game features 6 playable characters, each with unique gameplay. The goal is to clear stages by rescuing animals and breaking capsules. The page shows screenshots comparing the Dreamcast and GameCube versions of the game, illustrating the graphical improvements. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy's are featured, and screenshots of game levels are shown. It mentions that actions like spin attacks and homing attacks deal damage to enemies. A snippet mentions the spin dash allows for super high-speed actions. The next page details the gameplay of Sonic Adventure DX, with a spotlight on different playable characters. Tails' gameplay focuses on racing Sonic to the goal, using his propeller flight to find faster routes. E102, a robot created by Dr. Eggman, uses lock-on lasers to defeat enemies, with the objective of destroying targets at the end of levels. Knuckles searches for shards of the Master Emerald, using radar and his climbing abilities. Big the Cat's gameplay revolves around fishing for his friend Froggy. Amy Rose escapes from the chasing Robot Zero, using her hammer for defense. The page showcases screenshots of each character in action. The next page features Warrior Blade, Rastan vs. Barbarian for the Nintendo GameCube. It's a fighting action game where up to 8 players can battle in a free-for-all. The game allows you to play as different warriors who inherit the blood of Rastan. You can also use the environment to your advantage and charge up magical attacks. The page shows screenshots of gameplay with the characters and highlights that there are a variety of stages and the ability to play up to 4 players locally, with 4 CPU characters to make 8. The next page is all about Star Wars: The Clone Wars for the Nintendo GameCube. The game is described as a shooting and action title that bridges episodes 2 and 2Is of the Star Wars saga. It features both shooting segments where you pilot vehicles like gunships and lightsaber combat as a Jedi. The story expands on the events of episode 2, leading up to the events of episode 2I. Up to 4 players can battle in multiplayer mode, with various maps and objectives. The page also mentions bonus objectives that unlock secrets within the game. This page is about the Naruto Gekitu Ninja Taisen fighting game for the Nintendo GameCube. The game aims to recreate the speedy and exhilarating battles of the anime. Characters are rendered with toon shading, and even newcomers can easily pull off flashy special moves with simple button presses. A screenshot showcases Naruto battling Sasuke on a rooftop stage. Another shows Sakura kicking Kakashi, and the page teases that other familiar anime characters will be playable too. There is a spotlight on the humorous side of the series, showcasing Kakashi reading his ICHA Paradise book. Also shown is Kakashi performing his signature 1,000 Years of Death technique on Naruto. The reviewer notes that the voice actors from the anime reprise their roles in the game, and the stages are based on locations in the anime. This page is a sticker sheet from Nintendo Dream Volume 84 and 85, featuring various games and characters. The Legend of Zelda. The Wind Waker is heavily represented with images of Link, King of Red Lions, Jaboon, Tetra, and other characters and enemies. There are also stickers for Metroid Prime, featuring Samus and a space pirate. Additionally, the page includes logos for GameCube titles like Nintendo Puzzle Collection, Biohazard 2 and 3, Resident Evil, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Evolution Snowboarding. There are even some Sega-themed stickers with strange alien creatures. The next page is a blank yellow page. This page showcases a few upcoming games. First up is Dragon Quest Monsters, Caravan Heart, for the Game Boy Advance, promising new classes like the Cartographer and Fortune Teller. The text highlights the unique abilities of party members. Next, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is featured, also for the GBA. The page notes that this preview comes right before release, summarizing the system and introducing new jobs and guardian beasts. The reviewer thinks many people will buy it together with a GBASP. Then, there's Biohazard 0, Resident Evil 0, for the GameCube. The article explores the story's climax, focusing on the factory and treatment plant locations, and delving into the truth behind a mysterious youth. Finally, Eternal Arcadia Legend, Skies of Arcadia Legends, for the GameCube. It promises a thorough walkthrough from the uninhabited island to Yafutoma, including a list of Moonfish locations and new events. The next page is an advertisement for page N.03, product number 03, on the Nintendo GameCube, an action game by Capcom. It shows Vanessa, the main character, in various action poses and gameplay environments. The ad emphasizes the shift in her fighting style from using weapons to hand-to-hand combat, incorporating dance-like movements. The director, Shinji Mikami, explains that he wanted to bring a dance feel to the action to make it more stylish and flashy. The game is set to be released on March 27th, with a price of 6,800 yen. This page is a continuation of the page N.03, product number 03, feature, highlighting the game's first mission. The game involves completing missions assigned by a client and defeating transforming mechs. The objective of the first mission is to defeat a boss. The page features screenshots of Vanessa, the main character, in various stages and environments. The game's stages are primarily white, creating a clean and uncluttered look. The page also showcases the Mission 1 boss, a large mech named Sonnenblume, focusing on its functionality and size compared to Vanessa. The boss is described as swinging its head and firing powerful lasers, requiring players to relentlessly attack with lasers to destroy it. The next page is dedicated to Biohazard 2, known as Resident Evil 2 in the West for the Nintendo GameCube. It highlights the two main characters, Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield, and their respective partners. The page details the story, which takes place 2 months after the events of the first Resident Evil game in the zombie-infested Raccoon City, where Leon, a rookie cop, and Claire, Chris Redfield's sister, find themselves. The article explains the zapping system, where completing one character's story allows you to play a story, another side, with the other character, resulting in 4 possible story combinations. Leon uses a lighter as a key item, and certain weapons are exclusive to his campaign. Claire uses a key pick for easier lockpicking, and her partner, Sherry Birkin, doesn't have offensive capabilities, requiring protection. The page includes screenshots of Leon and Claire in various locations, along with their partners Ada Wong and Sherry Birkin. It also mentions new enemies, like the Licker and the mutated G creature, which morphs as it attacks. This page is about Biohazard 3, known as Resident Evil 3, Last Escape in the West. It's the Nintendo GameCube version of the game. It's a survival horror title for one player and requires one memory block. The article sets the scene in Raccoon City, focusing on Jill Valentine's fight for survival against the relentless nemesis. It's described as a complete port from the PlayStation version. The story takes place before the events of Resident Evil 2, in a zombie-infested Raccoon City. Jill is the main protagonist. The goal is to escape the zombie-ridden city. The page mentions that Nemesis, a mysterious monster, will relentlessly pursue Jill. Nemesis is on a mission to eliminate S.TARS members.
Several screenshots show Jill battling zombies and a giant worm emerging from the ground.
The text mentions that the police station will be one of the settings for battles. There's a section on the UBCS, Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, mercenary unit, who are tasked with rescuing key personnel from the city. The UBCS. Featured on the page are Carlos Oliveira, Nikolai Genovaev, and Mikhail Victor.
Carlos can also be controlled in the game.
The text questions whether S.TARS is an opposing force. The page also includes a description of each character. The next page features Dragon Quest monsters. Caravan Heart for the Game Boy Advance. The text teases 3 new key elements: companions, food, and orbs. This installment focuses on the secrets and newly revealed systems related to companions. The page details the special abilities of companions and explains that in battle, the caravan is protected by guard monsters, with companions jumping into the fray via the support command. The effects vary. Warriors might use powerful attacks, while mages cast spells like Frizz or Kazwoosh. These companions also offer unique support outside of battles. Screenshots show various monsters assisting in battle, with the text emphasizing combining companions to unlock unique abilities. It also introduces Jaipan, a wise old man who watches over the caravan. The page also mentions a map maker to help navigate the world. This page focuses on the food aspect of Dragon Quest monsters. Caravan Heart. It emphasizes the importance of food for your caravan, explaining that running out leads to danger. Food can be purchased in towns or even acquired by fishing. The food status display shows the remaining food, with the amount consumed varying based on terrain. Hiring a chef helps conserve food, and they can even restore the MP of monsters during battles. Food itself can be purchased, such as apples and bananas, which provide different recovery amounts. The page shows how leveling up your caravan increases food storage. It also suggests fishing to obtain food at destinations, with a fishing minigame illustrated. The final section introduces the orb item, which is key for Kiefer to return to his world. It's mentioned that a fortune teller can help find the location of orbs. The fortune teller helps with map making and can reveal the enemy's remaining HP. The next page dives into Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life for the Nintendo GameCube, focusing on the characters who populate Forget-Me-Not Valley. The article highlights that there are over 40 residents and introduces 4 new characters, the first being Garfan, the guitar-playing bartender at the Bluebird Bar, where Moomba works. The article then introduces San, described as a gossip-loving woman who seems kind. Next is Glat, a salaryman, and is always tired. Finally, there's the mysterious Bear-chan plushie that appears randomly in the player's son's room, or at the inn, shrouded in mystery. The page also features screenshots of in-game events. The article suggests that the player will be able to enjoy complex relationships with the townsfolk. It briefly mentions the link with the GBA version of Harvest Moon. This page spotlights Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town, for the Game Boy Advance, emphasizing new features. The game will link up with Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life, on the GameCube, letting players visit each other's towns. The page shows the protagonist in different locations at various times of the day. A key feature is the ability to own a vacation home, though the details of what can be done there remain unknown. The player can connect with people in Mineral Town, like mana. Players can also buy unique items through a trade mechanic with the traveling merchant, Van. The townsfolk, including Thomas, the mayor of Forget-Me-Not Valley, will bicker with each other, triggering new events and storylines. The next page is about Rune 2 for the Nintendo GameCube. It highlights the game's card-based class change system, where players summon creatures using cards and evolve them by earning experience in battle. A key feature is that the class change is not fixed, allowing players to choose from multiple evolution paths. The page showcases the Lizardman's class change options, displaying several possible evolutions with different stats and experience requirements. Examples of other creatures are also shown, such as the fairy, who can evolve into a sprite or dark sprite, and the potential evolutions for the gargoyle, great demon, and Aini. It also mentions that the water recovery attribute indicates the card's element and system. This page focuses on the town of Cadiz in Rune 2 for the Nintendo GameCube, highlighting its features and key locations. It mentions that Cadiz is under the watchful eye of the legendary Queen Katia's statue, and is a town that appears in Rune, a game released about 200 years prior in the timeline. The page details the town's card shop, where players can buy, sell, copy, and class change cards, with new cards becoming available as the story progresses. It shows the inside of the shop and how to copy cards and perform class changes. It also introduces the Fairy Research Lab and the importance of bringing red fairy rims to the lab to receive rare cards as a reward. The red fairy rim is described as a lively spirit born from warm fireplaces. The page also introduces Russell version 2i, a fairy scholar and a descendant of a line of researchers, some of whom aided Queen Katia. This page is an advertisement for Rockman XZ transmission for the Nintendo GameCube. The ad highlights the game's action-shooting gameplay, featuring familiar elements from the Rockman XZ series, such as the chip battle system. It introduces new and returning netnavis, like Needleman, Iceman, and Blues, with screenshots showcasing their abilities and battle scenarios. The page also emphasizes the use of battle chips like Guts Punch, Heat Shot, Cannon, and Flame Blade to defeat viruses. The next page spotlights Shin Megami Tensei for the Game Boy Advance, highlighting the newly added Visionary mode. It reveals side stories of characters, focusing on Yuriko, a mysterious woman connected to the hero, and Go-To, an elite officer aiming to build his ideal nation through a coup. The feature details how Visionary mode utilizes memory fragments to unlock event scenes not present in the main game. Screenshots show dialogue and gameplay scenarios, including a scene where the player extracts an idea from Pascal's collar. The page also introduces Ozawa, a leader of a delinquent group who seeks revenge using demon summoning powers, and the stories behind the hero and Chaos Hero. The next page is a full-page advertisement for Generation of Chaos Exceed Queen Rose of Darkness for the GameCube. It's a strategy RPG where the player becomes a ruler aiming to conquer the continent of Neverland. The game combines SLG and RPG elements, with the SLG part focusing on nation-building and territorial expansion, and the RPG part involving recruiting generals and acquiring equipment. The game features a large volume of animation, around 100 minutes, during story events and commands. The page highlights internal affairs, warfare, forbidden magic, and exploration as key aspects of the gameplay. This page introduces the RPG portion of Generation of Chaos Exceed Queen Rose of Darkness for the GameCube. It details the recruitment of military commanders and item collection. In the RPG part, you explore dungeons while battling enemies looking for items. You might encounter characters like angels who restore your health, or characters that offer gameplay advice. The battle section explains that battles involve up to 4 allies and enemies in real time. The speed meter affects action frequency, and raising the attack counter allows more actions. You can strategically position your allies and unleash special moves through command inputs, such as Rose's special move, Guilty Decide, which instantly kills enemies. The page also introduces characters and their lore. Rose, a half-demon, half-human character driven by revenge after her family's murder. Ashley, a mysterious military strategist who supports Rose. Suzume Ohime, a young ruler of the Muromachi country and the leader of the Eastern Four Heavenly Kings Alliance. Aflan, the supreme commander and state minister of the Shinba Empire. Aliwis, the leader of the Bloody Force rebelling against the Shinba Empire. Ankroyer, a knight of the former Shinba Empire seeking to rebuild it. This page is an advert for Final Fantasy Tactics Advance on the Game Boy Advance, scheduled for release on February 14th. It's a simulation RPG where you play as Marsh and fight to restore the world changed by the Grimoire, a magical book. The page highlights key characters like Marche, Ritz Malheur, and Mute Randell. It also showcases gameplay elements, such as the clan system, where you join organizations to complete quests, and a screenshot of a successful quest completion. The quest system allows you to clear areas on the map by taking quests. The reality that Marche and friends knew is transformed to Ivalice, where they must overcome enemies to clear quests and win rewards. The next page describes the law system in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, where rules set by the kingdom's rulers impact battles. Breaking these laws results in penalties judged by officials. Defenders of the crystals feature prominently powerful guardians who can be summoned in battle. The article also shows the battles, where breaking the law triggers penalties after engagements. The punishments can range from card confiscation to stat reductions. It mentions that completing the engagements will also affect the penalties. The page then describes the job system, where characters master abilities to unlock new jobs. It features screenshots of the White Mage job, highlighting the ability screen and job change options for high-level characters like the Summoner. Mentioned are the characters Marche, Ritz Malheur, and Mute Randell. Familiar jobs such as Knights and Black Mages, as well as other jobs such as Alchemists and Fencers. The next page is an advertisement for The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers on the GameCube, scheduled for release on February 14th. The game allows you to experience the world of the film in 3D action, ahead of its Japanese release. It's a beat-em-up, where you select one of 3 characters per stage, Aragorn, Gimli, or Legolas, to confront Sauron's forces. The graphics and character animations are designed to be faithful to the movie. The stages are based on iconic scenes from both The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers, starting with the intense battles and the meeting of Frodo and Aragorn, including scenes set in the Elven village. Screenshots show locations like the Mines of Moria and the Plains of Rohan, where you defend villages being attacked by Sauron's army. You'll also face enemies like the monsters, lurking outside the doors of Durin, and encounter Lurtz, the Uruk-hai leader, at Amon Hen. The page also mentions special features like behind-the-scenes footage and interviews with the cast and crew, including director Peter Jackson. This page is an advert for RPG Maker Advance on the Game Boy Advance. The game allows you to create your own RPGs without specialized knowledge, using pre-made characters, towns, and dungeons. The software features 2 sample games, Otsukai Quest and Jewel Keeper, to teach the basics of RPG creation. Jewel Keeper is made by Hiroshi Miyawaki, known for the Metal Max series. The game allows for event placement, visual scene creation, and side-view battle scenes with customizable effects. You can test your game as you are creating it. The next page showcases Atelier Marie, Ellie, and Anis, Message from the Gentle Wind, a Game Boy Advance RPG where you create items and record recipes. The game features characters from previous Atelier titles, including Marie and Ellie, along with the new character, Ananis. The core gameplay involves using alchemy to craft items and documenting the recipes. After a year in the game, Anis joins the party. The image combination system lets you create new items by combining various components. The page then highlights how to select base items and toppings for crafting, and the game emphasizes efficient teamwork between alchemists to create items and the importance of splitting up the characters to each of their strengths. The screenshots display the crafting interface and in-game battles. The characters travel to various locations to find new item creation hints. The next page features 3 Game Boy Advance games. First is Inuyasha, Curse of the Mask, a board game where you raise Inuyasha and his friends. The gameplay revolves around traversing maps and battling enemies using a roulette system. Characters like Inuyasha, Kagome, Miroku, and Sango can be leveled up. Next is Evolution Snowboarding, a snowboarding game set in a future with extreme weather. Players race against opponents, using tricks and attacks. A screenshot shows a boss battle with a giant chainsaw-wielding enemy. Lastly, there's Disney Sports, Motocross, where Disney characters compete in motocross races. You can collect jewels on the courses to gain special abilities like flight, and use tricks to gain an advantage. The page shows Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck racing. This page is an attack guide for Biohazard Zero, Resident Evil Zero, On the Nintendo GameCube, it focuses on the factory and treatment plant areas, providing maps for 1F, B1F, B4F, B5F, and B6F. The guide highlights item locations, such as magnum rounds, green herbs, handgun bullets, ink ribbons, and the factory key. Key areas like the control panel and elevator activation points are marked, and the text emphasizes that it's analyzing the final portion of the story. Warning of new enemies and mysteries. The page also lists the game's details, mentioning its survival horror genre, single-player mode, and memory card usage. The next page continues the attack guide for Resident Evil 0 on the GameCube, focusing on the B7F, B8F, and B9F levels of the facility. It provides detailed maps highlighting item locations such as a card key, green herbs, red herbs, shotgun shells, sulfuric acid rounds, and a high-output battery. Key rooms are numbered and labeled, including the plaza, water tank room, purification rooms, research labs, and the final disposal area. The guide also marks gondola operating panels and lift locations, with the intention of helping players navigate the complex and find essential resources to complete the game. This page provides a strategy guide for Resident Evil 0, focusing on the factory and treatment plant areas. It details how to obtain the factory key and activate a turntable, which involves navigating through the factory, using lifts to reach the monitor room, and facing hunters. The guide provides step-by-step instructions, including obtaining the factory key, using it at panel 3, and dealing with the tyrant encounter. Screenshots illustrate key locations and events, such as encountering Billy, using keyholes, and the large humanoid creature seen on the monitor. The next page continues the Resident Evil 0 strategy guide, specifically addressing the tyrant encounter and powering up the dam area. It details the tyrant's attack patterns and how to evade them, advising players to dodge its claw strikes and attack from behind with the Magnum. The guide then shifts focus to lighting up all the electricity points in the dam area, essential for progressing the game. It suggests heading to LV4 via the elevator, which triggers a cutscene with a mysterious young man. Once in the central control room A, the player must activate all the power points, using the provided map as a guide. Doing so restores power to the dam and allows the lifts to be used. The guide also mentions encountering leechmen in the hallway outside the restroom, recommending the use of Molotov cocktails made from a fuel tank and empty bottle. Finally, it notes that by heading to the reservoir, the player can reunite with Billy. The page includes several screenshots illustrating key moments and locations, including cutscenes with Billy and Rebecca, water areas, and a map. This page from the Resident Evil 0 strategy guide focuses on puzzle solving and enemy encounters. It details how to solve a puzzle involving wooden crates in a water tank, requiring Billy and Rebecca to work together. Once that's done, the player needs to get the valve handle. The guide shows how to deal with zombies in the pump room and advises stocking up on red chemicals. The page highlights a battle against the proto-tyrant in the sewage pool, suggesting using Billy as a shield, while Rebecca fires a magnum. Defeating the tyrant allows the player to access a switch and obtain a computer base from the final disposal room. This is used in the power and air conditioning control room to activate a gondola, which can only carry Rebecca, leading to the pair splitting up again. The page features screenshots of key locations and events. This Resident Evil 0 strategy guide details creating a battery and operating a forklift. Players must open the dam water gate, acquire industrial water and chemicals from labs, and combine them to make battery fluid. A high-output battery is found in Research Lab 2, requiring quick action against a plague crawler. The resulting battery, combined with fluid, powers a forklift in Area 23 to get a card key. This key unlocks a lower dam level, where facing a Queen Leech boss battle is crucial. Replenish health. Equip Rebecca and Billy with appropriate weapons. Grenades, Magnum for Rebecca, shotgun for Billy. And strategically use weapons. A cutscene with Marcus reveals his identity near the incinerator. The guide includes screenshots of key locations and warnings about Frog-Type B.O.Ws defeat the Queen Leech without being captured. The next page is a strategy guide for Eternal Arcadia Legend on the Nintendo GameCube, also known as Skies of Arcadia Legends internationally. The guide focuses on navigating the uninhabited island and escaping to Ixataka. The guide provides a walkthrough for the island, starting with finding a bone to obtain Gonzales map. Players then gather items, Defeat 15 Fudan enemies in the forest on day 2, collect 5 kindling on day 4, and 5 moonstones on day 6. After preparing to leave, the pirate guilder appears to rescue the party, who then heads to Ixataka. It mentions that Aika and Fina will arrive in Ixataka a little later. The guide provides tips on finding moonfish in various locations like Ixataka Harbor, Treasure Island, and Pirate Isle. The locations of the moonfish include the harbor, Treasure Island, the Pirate Isle, Uninhabited Island, Esperanza, and others. There is a list of moonfish locations with map names. The list includes Narrated Harbor, Treasure Island, Pirate Isle, Desert Island, Esperanza, Yaftoma Town, and Fugaku Dungeon.
This page continues the strategy guide for Eternal Arcadia Legend, focusing on the Narrated region. It provides a chart for progression, starting with helping an old man to reach Treasure Island. The guide then details switching between Vice and Aika to solve puzzles, recommending guarding when Engage is used by enemies due to a powerful desumerage attack. It advises against fighting Ramirez in Narrated, suggesting that losing is inevitable. The guide also notes that after the attack on Narrated, Osman, the moneylender, and Kazim, the gunner, will become allies. It mentions other characters on islands who can join, urging the player to talk to Rakuta. The guide includes gameplay screenshots and tips for navigating the game's challenges, highlighting key characters and battle strategies. The next page of this Eternal Arcadia Legend strategy guide focuses on the Gargantua Fortress. It provides a progression chart that starts with escaping from the prison and includes rescuing Fina, finding a ship for escape, and battling Brachilos. The guide offers tips for battles within the fortress, recommending focusing attacks on Atika, proceeding in the direction of voices, dealing with searchlights and spray cannons, and using Delphinus's special cannon attack effectively. It also notes that Marco is inside the bridge, and that 100,000 rich is required to build the base, suggesting defeating Cainsul to obtain the money. Finally, it includes information on the second battle with Piastel. The page features gameplay screenshots and character portraits. This page of the Eternal Arcadia Legends strategy guide covers the path to Yafutoma. The guide suggests speaking to Don in the tavern to learn about Salgaso, talking with Enrique, then staying overnight. It also lays out the route from the Gregorio warship battle to escaping Salgaso and heading towards Yafutoma. Tips are provided for battles, such as using special cannons when close to enemies in the Gregorio warship battle and being prepared to evade tackles in the Ophelia battle. Also, it is advised not to lose your way in Salgaso, being cautious and remembering paths. Be sure to check ships that have light leaking, as they may contain useful items. The guide provides information on encounters, like battling the junk ship, then Zhao and Mao before seeing the Mikado in Yafutoma, speaking with the ship equipment shop owner, and going to Fugaku. Later, you'll battle Diego and report back to the Mikado. Tactics are discussed, such as focusing attacks on one target when battling Zhao and Mao, and using Enrique's escudo to reduce damage from their special attacks. Finally, the guide also has a note that in this encounter with the junk ships, the most effective form of attack is to use torpedoes. The next page of the Eternal Arcadia Legends guide provides strategies for the Yafutoma area. Firstly, it describes how to progress through an underwater section of the Fugaku, requiring you to activate switches to drain water and open paths. It suggests looking for switches in hard-to-reach spots and diving to submerged areas. Then, it recommends focusing attacks after Diego uses Nanja, as this temporarily makes him immune to all attacks, but be sure to equip Catamaranas to counter the petrifying attacks. Meeting Daigo is described as stopping Tenkos from appearing. It mentions stopping Mirage's movement to make the fight easier, using moves like Lunar Seal to stun him, and focusing on Monofu enemies first. For the Draco fight, it advises healing every turn due to his powerful cannon attacks and using special attacks. Guarding is key to avoid God's grandeur, which can lead to disadvantageous situations. The guide also covers events where you recruit the beautiful sisters, Ura and Kira, as companions in Yafutoma. Recruit Kira first to unlock Ura. Finally, it gives tips on the Piastel fight, where he uses Jedus and Jewel Rouge, recommending using Delta Shield and recovery items. This page features a variety of content from readers of the magazine. It begins with the phrase, "Nindoria is Nindori's registered trademark." The editor mentions they will go on vacation after the magazine is released, seemingly to a warm country where they can dive, while also trying to eat bread in the country. The page includes a section titled, "Happy New Year from Nindria," and showcases New Year's cards and illustrations submitted by readers. These are in various styles,
some including characters from games and anime.
Readers also share reports and opinions. One reader mentions seeing a boat similar to the one from the Wind Waker near Kyoto's Arashiyama. Another wonders if the Okinawan Haryu is similar to the Shishi. A reader reports being surprised to find that the manga artist Shinji Uchiyama from Korokoro Comic was reading Nindri at a bookstore and is a gamer. A reader mentions that their music exam was unsolvable, and writing Talmina from The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask as an answer ended up being correct. Finally, it talks about words that students cannot use. A reader suggests avoiding words like failing and slipping or Zelda, and the writer jokes about how they strongly hinder studying. Please provide the text you would like me to summarize. This magazine page features reader submissions. Readers asked about the status of an artist's series, and the editor confirmed it's in progress. Another section discusses the Square Enix merger, with readers voicing opinions for and against the name change. A call for submissions on Game Boy Advance SP versus Game Boy Player is included. A School Parents Association section features parental advice seeking and anecdotes. The Nindori Academy section encourages reader submissions. Gaming fails are recounted, including humorous stories of misusing game features. A comic strip and a Captain Pun series are also included. The next page is titled Nindori Gakuen and features reader impressions and letters about games. One reader focuses on the future potential of hardware, specifically criticizing the decision to release Dragon Quest version 2 on the PlayStation 2 instead of the GameCube. They feel that GameCube had superior potential, but the lack of popularity and sales were a factor. They lament the missed opportunity for GameCube to shine with a title like this, and emphasize how Nintendo should get Enix to add more content in its games. Another reader discusses differences between GameCube software and other platforms, suggesting that GameCube games prioritize the act of playing itself, and says that GC is a play-oriented machine. The reader praises the latest, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker for its graphics and style. The page includes reader-submitted haikus with gaming themes. One mentions regretting not pre-ordering The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, while another humorously describes confusing attacks in Star Fox Adventures and The Legend of Zelda titles. There are also haikus about the Mother series and Pokemon games. The following page features reader opinions on various Nintendo games. A sibling debate about game preferences, focusing on Nintendo titles like Pikmin and Pokemon, kicks off the discussion. A concerning impressions section compiles reader reviews, including negative reactions to a new Ganon medicine, and positive feedback on Pokemon Ruby Sapphire. Other comments cover Wind Waker, dungeon design, and Link's recurring sleep-related appearances. One reader details their evolving appreciation for the Wind Waker's cel-shaded art style and Link, citing a positive shift after extended playtime. The page concludes with a call for more reader submissions on Nintendo topics, including questions about Nintendo's weaknesses, game remakes, GameCube improvements, and GB player functions, along with a special badge incentive. The next page focuses on the Famicom game Quinty, also known as Mendel Palace internationally. It highlights the game's charming characters and inventive level design, noting its creation by Game Freak before their Pokemon fame. The review describes the game as a puzzle action title reminiscent of classic arcade games, praising its system of flipping panels to defeat enemies. There's emphasis on hidden items and varied enemy types, adding depth. With screenshots of gameplay and enemy characters, it is noted that the game also incorporates hidden elements and techniques for score chasing, and has a large amount of levels for a Famicom game. This page is dedicated to reader submissions related to The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. The page is titled GameSoft Fan Club, and includes fan art, comments, and experiences from players. The heading says, "My ghost likes to travel so far in the unknown," and the subheading highlights that due to the popularity of The Wind Waker submissions, this issue is dedicated to a full page of Zelda content. Readers share their thoughts on the game, such as enjoying the exploration, graphics, and the characters, including Link, Tetra, and even minor characters like the Postman. It features fan art depicting various scenes and characters from the game, with humorous anecdotes about gameplay experiences, such as repeatedly getting game overs with the pig screen, or struggling with Wind Waker's controls. Some fans are even going as far as writing lyrics for the game's music. There is also a section dedicated to fan experiences of the Ocarina of Time, with fan art, and also about feelings of playing the Wind Waker game.
This page is about reader contributions and thoughts for various Nintendo games. There are 3 main sections: Pokemon, Fire Emblem, and a small section for general GBA games. The Pokemon section includes fan art of Pokemon, and characters from the Pokemon games such as Plus Teal and Minun, as well as opinions on Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. There are also comments regarding favorite party setups, and the writer mentioning a few of the main characters in the game, such as Volbeat and Illumise. The Fire Emblem section contains reader-submitted fan art and comments on the Fire Emblem series, with the writer stating,
Pikmin, Animal Crossing, and Kirby GC titles have been announced, but no news on Fi. The GBA section contains comments and fan art featuring GBA games. Readers are sharing their art and comments and favorite characters from the game. The next page features reader submissions and fan art related to various Nintendo games, split into 3 sections: Mario Family, Star Fox Club, and Smash Bros. DX. The Mario Family section includes fan art and comments on games like Super Mario 64 and Puzzle Collection. One reader mentions wanting to play Mario 64 on the GameCube. There's also fan art of characters like Mario, Yoshi, Princess Daisy, and Luigi. One submission jokingly wonders if Daisy is 18 years old. The Star Fox Club section showcases fan art of Star Fox characters in different styles, including humanized versions. Readers share their thoughts on Star Fox adventures and express excitement for a potential new Star Fox STG game. The Smash Bros. DX section includes fan art and comments on Super Smash Bros. Melee. Readers discuss their favorite characters and team combinations, with one mentioning enjoying playing the game on a progressive scan TV to better see the details. This page is a collection of reader submissions and fan art related to various Nintendo games. The first section, Mother Department, features fan art and comments on the Mother series, with one reader expressing their love for Mother 2. The next section, Kirby of the Stars Department, showcases fan art of Kirby and related characters. One reader wonders if Kirby will copy the sleeping ability. Finally, the page features a section dedicated to Golden Sun, with fan art and readers sharing their thoughts on the game. Some readers share their experiences playing Golden Sun and their favorite characters and abilities. There's also a section for new copy abilities for Kirby. This page features fan submissions and information for various Nintendo games. Sections include Animal Crossing, with fan art and comments on characters like Johnny; Metroid Prime, with reader art and discussion of Samus Aran; Phantasy Star Online, with tips and character discussions; Pikmin, with fan art and a request for a dedicated Pikmin section; a letter section with diverse fan art and requests; and segments on Ace Attorney and Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Each section showcases reader art, comments, and requests. The page concludes with an advertisement for the next issue and submission deadline. The next page is Ninja Academy, with the theme of Big Surprise Prankster Hermit Launch. The page features a queue and a section with reader questions and answers by the magazine staff. Topics covered include becoming a game programmer and understanding cake language. They discuss the importance of programming languages like ACK and Assembler, highlighting their strengths and weaknesses. C is recommended as a flexible language, while Assembler is noted for its speed but complexity. Mastering C gives you the ability to create games. What to do when a disk gets scratched and stops working. It explains that data on optical disks is stored beneath a layer of plastic, and scratches can scatter the laser light needed to read the data. It also recommends using a disk repair kit. There's also a section called Death Hermit's Marriage is Life's Graveyard, tentative, which is a humorous reader submission segment. Some questions and answers include, who are you? Answer, actually, I'm Yuko Ogura. Do you wear dentures? Various reader jokes and comments, including a remark about a friend's nickname being the Death Hermit. One reader says they've extended their lifespan by 1/3 after eating cup noodles. Another reader laments their struggles with math and asks for advice. The magazine also teases about the TBS late-night show where Bob Sapp drank dried pepper. This page, titled Nintendo Dream Around the World, starts with an article discussing how fun a skateboarding game is, comparing it to Super Mario. The author, Obuchi Yutaka, talks about playing games with his nephews and enjoying games like Mario and Zelda and new Japanese games. The article focuses on the fun of playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater,
comparing it to the feeling of collecting stars in Mario. They talk about the freedom and exhilaration of skateboarding in the game, appealing to both hardcore gamers and casual players. It mentions that the game has been released on various platforms, with mixed popularity in Japan compared to the US. A screenshot from the game shows a character performing a trick.
There's a section where a kid says that playing Tony Hawk's feels like the 3D Mario game. The author also mentions the game Timesplitters 2, and the fact it is being released in Japan and is similar to Medal of Honor. Finally, there's a short Yutaka's news section about a personal anecdote of a painful dental experience. This page features the Tenin Kazoku manga, a comic centered around Nintendo characters. The latest installment, titled Clash Nekame Mother vs. Tinkleboy 3, finds Dash struggling with a test score that's left him feeling blue. The comic opens with Dash trying to avoid his mother and practicing his boomerang skills, clearly up to no good, as he sneaks out. Link rewards his animal friend and celebrates getting Moji Patan with the catchphrase. There is a scene where Link is tasting the soup and comments on the taste. He sends Dash off to buy soy sauce. Later, Link pulls out a Tinkleceiver, a device to summon Tingle, despite being told not to, with Tingle being recognized by Sauhen. The next page continues the Tenin Kazoku manga. Dash is in trouble for his test scores. Link is cooking and being generous while Dash is being mischievous. Tingle is summoned, and chaos ensues as they fight over a treasure chest. Link seems to be on Tingle's side. Link throws spiky seed pods at Tingle, and opens a treasure chest to find it empty. Meanwhile, Sauhen finds a map while the others are distracted. Sauhen then analyzes a pile of rolled Dash's test papers. The test shows he scored 12 out of 100, with many incorrect answers. Sauhen discovers Dash's hidden treasure. This page is a release schedule for GameCube and Game Boy Advance titles. Noteworthy games on the GameCube side include Biohazard 2 and 3, Resident Evil, Winning 11-6, Nintendo Puzzle Collection, Metroid Prime, and titles such as Page N.03, Soul Calibur 2, and Gift Pia, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. On the Game Boy Advance side, it lists Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, Metroid Fusion, titles from series like Prince of Tennis, Konami's Boktai. There is also a section for Game Boy Color games, with games like Kanji Boy 3, and for card e-reader games, such as Hamtaro Card E. The next page features a questionnaire for readers of Nintendo Dream magazine. The questionnaire includes questions about their school or occupation, grade level, age, gender, favorite magazines, what systems they use, what games they want to buy, and what articles they found interesting or uninteresting. Readers are also asked about which upcoming games they're looking forward to, and there's a section for comments or suggestions for Nintendo. The page includes details on how to submit the questionnaire and the deadline for submissions, February 20th. This page is a feature titled Muscle Valentine, with a segment dedicated to creating Kirby chocolates. Muscle is attempting to make Kirby chocolates. The page gives a step-by-step guide on creating the chocolates with tips, like how to properly melt and temper chocolate to avoid separation and ensure a glossy finish. The guide recommends using different types of chocolate and a thermometer for accurate temperature control. The article also encourages using copies of magazine or strategy guide art as a template for the chocolate mold. The right side of the page features a list of winners for a previous giveaway, Volume 81, listing prizes, and the winners by prefecture and name, including a Nintendo GameCube console, Game Boy Advance consoles, wireless controllers, memory cards, and game software. The next page is a feature spread celebrating the hit release of Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire with a long interview. The page shows images of Junichi Masuda, the director, and Ken Sugimori, the art director, alongside various Pokémon such as Torchic, Mudkip, Trico, Poochyena, and legendary Pokemon Groudon and Kyogre. Also featured are plushies, including Tyranitar. The page highlights limited edition Pokemon Center t-shirts, Pokemon trophies and shields, and a Pikachu shield. This page features a nostalgic look at the making of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. It's an interview with Junichi Masuda from Game Freak, the development director, and Ken Sugimori, the art director. Masuda describes the theme as returning to the origins to capture the essence of Pokemon. The interview delves into why the gym leaders and Elite Four are more challenging in these versions. Sugimori mentions that he also worked on promotional illustrations for the game. There's talk about the game's sales success and the feeling of accomplishment after wrapping up the project. They touch upon the impressive sales figures,
with around 80 million copies sold from the original Red version up to Crystal version. The interview goes on to say the new Ruby and Sapphire games have already sold 8 million copies in total. The team explains that they were not overly concerned with the numbers and focused on making the game challenging, and there are some issues regarding connectivity with older games, and some of the Pokemon that were previously nurtured cannot be brought over to the new Ruby and Sapphire games. The page includes images of Trico, a Pokemon called Younger Gare in Japanese, and a photo of the Game Freak conference room. Masuda's favorite Pokemon is revealed to be Golduck, while Sugimori favors Venusaur. The next page continues the interview with Junichi Masuda and Ken Sugimori about Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. They discuss the importance of side paths and exploration in the game, encouraging players to catch and use many Pokemon. Masuda points out the gym leaders and Elite Four are now more challenging, requiring players to catch specific types of Pokemon. The topic shifts to new features in balancing the game compared to Gold and Silver. Sugimori mentions the goal was to create a new feeling, with new Pokemon designs. Masuda explains the communication features and the ability to compete with up to 4 players. The development team focused on balancing the difficulty and wanted to ensure that the game was challenging. The interviewers highlight the fact that the world map is much larger than Gold and Silver, and the routes are wider. The team discusses the selection process for Pokemon, noting that they started with only new Pokemon and later added older Pokemon to balance the types. Masuda jokes about wanting to include Golduck. They touch on the difficulty of evolution being easily recognizable. Images of Wurmple and Mudkip and Pokemon art are featured, which includes Pokemon that have been included in previous releases. The interview with Junichi Masuda and Ken Sugimori discusses the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire design process. Sugimori highlights a focus on creating cool, strong, monster-like Pokemon, introducing new types, and avoiding anime character aesthetics. Masuda emphasizes the overall feel over meticulous detail. 8 designers contributed, receiving requests, critiquing designs, and aiming for a unified style. Blaziken was a deliberate experiment. They drew inspiration from past generations, particularly departing from the cuteness of Gold and Silver, and aimed to recapture the series' roots while incorporating new elements. The designs strived for uniqueness within the established Pokemon framework. The next page of the interview continues with Masuda and Sugimori discussing the design of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Sugimori jokes about how anything in the world can inspire a Pokemon. They touch upon the inspiration for Torchic, which is a colored-eyed chick. Masuda mentions Pokemon like Wailord, Seedot, and Hoppip as examples of Pokemon he likes. Sugimori talks about how he likes to see new, fresh designs with clean lines. Masuda explains that the names Ruby and Sapphire were chosen to evoke both a sense of something new and something from the past, drawing on imagery of gems and minerals, and how he wanted to go with something different than Crystal version. They discuss the concept of Ruby and Sapphire representing opposing forces, like the sea and land, and the teams Magma and Aqua who embody those ideals. Masuda wanted the world to feel natural and harmonious, with the player character caught between these two extremes. They also mention the importance of nature in the game's world. This page continues the interview with Masuda and Sugimori, focusing on the design and influences behind Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Masuda reveals his hometown in Kyushu was the inspiration for the Hoenn region. They talk about how looking at a map of Kyushu gives them the idea of a world map, and wanting to capture the natural beauty of the area in the game. Masuda also mentions his parents are from Kyushu. Sugimori comments that growing up near Tokyo had a different feel. They talk about the meaning behind the name Hoenn, which Masuda chose to represent bonds or connections, linking people and Pokemon. The conversation touches on the differences between the sea life around Yokohama and Kyushu, and the desire to create a visually striking world. They discuss the importance of distinguishing features for each area, with each town having different architecture and plants. Masuda also talks about how they tried to incorporate elements of Okinawa but ultimately didn't, and how they were conscious of not making the music too Okinawan. They briefly mention the connection between Johto and Kanto, stating the Johto region is named after the city Kyoto, and that Hoenn is a separate world. The next page features an interview with Masuda and Sugimori. It delves into the development of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, with the main focus on the hardest part of development. Masuda highlights the need for careful planning to maintain the team's morale during the 2-year development period. He mentions they had to set deadlines and have clear goals for when to finish this. Sugimori shares anecdotes about resolving design conflicts, like the placement of tails and horns on Pokemon, to avoid impacting moves. They mention the struggle of narrowing down the designs and balancing different elements of the Pokemon, how many designers were working on it, but the art direction was unified. The interview also touches on the inclusion of Braille in the game, inspired by Masuda's observations of Braille signage around Tokyo, and the desire to raise awareness about it. Masuda explains how he was inspired to implement Braille in the game after seeing it around the Odaku line and realizing how little people know about it, so he decided to implement it in the game. They talk about how the total Pokemon count is up, with the number of moves also increasing, setting Ruby and Sapphire apart from previous games. Alongside the text are character art images of Duskull, number 149, Lairon, number 070, Loudred, number 062, and Zangoose, number 123. The next page continues the interview with Masuda and Sugimori, discussing various aspects of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire's development. Masuda mentions the importance of considering player experience when designing the game, recalling including features on the GameCube to tie in with the GBA titles. He also touches on incorporating Braille in the game, even adding Braille lettering to their business cards. Sugimori notes that the success of Pokemon allows him to encourage children to learn Braille. It gives the example that it would be great if more kids started reading Braille. The interview discusses overseas versions of the game and reveals that Masuda leaves the work to Nintendo, but they consider what to include. They briefly touch on the topic of relaxing and instead decide to keep thinking and working hard on themselves and the project. Masuda expresses his desire for players to invest time in the game, even as much as 1 month, to see the growth of fruit trees, and also that they want players to enjoy the mystery and to not rush through the game with guides. The interview concludes with Masuda announcing the upcoming birth of his child in September. The page is decorated with images of Kecleon, number 145, Lileep, number 133, and Marshtomp, number 008. This page continues the interview with Masuda and Sugimori about Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, with artwork of Slakoth, Hariyama, and Numel on the page. Masuda mentions his child being born in September, and that having children changed his perspective on how he sees the world. They discuss Masuda's recent cooking hobby, and Sugimori tells a story about getting a massage. They speculate what Pokemon they would want to be reborn as, with Masuda choosing Hariyama and Sugimori picking Slakoth, as he wants to relax. Masuda recounts his most cherished memory of receiving a bicycle as a child. Masuda talks about the joy of working with the team that created the games, and Sugimori talks about the tension of working with such a great team. Masuda describes the Game Boy Advance as a great handheld, and that they have learned much from Nintendo, with Sugimori adding that he loves Sega. Sugimori states that looking at games helps him to grow and create new things, and specifically mentions Nintendo. Masuda expresses his hope that players feel the same way. The interview ends with Masuda giving a word of encouragement to aspiring game creators to keep improving their art and always put their creations out into the world. Lastly, Masuda mentions that his most memorable game is the SFC title F-Zero, while Sugimori says that his is the first Metroid game. This page is an Ask Nintendo Q&A section. The page features Drive Mario, with text describing the history of the character, originally titled Virus, debuting in 1990 on the Famicom and Game Boy. It mentions its success with over 10 million copies sold worldwide, and his inclusion as a playable character in Super Smash Bros. DX. The first question asks for impressions of the year-end sales season from 2002 to 2003. Nintendo responds that it was a good year-end and New Year, with Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire shipping 4 million units in 40 days after release. They acknowledge the perception that games aren't selling well but are impressed by Pokemon's success. It also says that while the Game Boy Advance is selling well, the Wind Waker is selling steadily. It also acknowledges it is a masterpiece. They hope it will break the million mark. They also mention that Mario Party 4 is also doing well. They advise to check retailers for Pokemon. A photograph shows a store corner where Pokemon is sold out but Wind Waker's is still in stock. A side panel shows a photo of a meeting room at Game Freak with Pokemon illustrations and asks what kind of meetings they might be having. The Ask Nintendo Q&A continues. Question 2. Details the Game Boy Advance SP, highlighting its front light, folding design, and adult-focused appeal. It will be released February 14th for 12,500 yen. Question 3 lists upcoming GameCube and GBA software, including Pikmin 2, Animal Crossing 2, Mario Kart GC, Mario Golf GBA, and Mario Tennis GBA. Question 4 addresses the GameCube Pokemon game, slated for release in the first half of the year, and using a Game Boy Advance and Ruby or Sapphire cartridge connection. This is a lower-priced product, Finally, question 5 discusses the Nintendo Puzzle Collection commercial featuring Aya Abe, airing January 24th. The collection includes 3 puzzle games and a GCGBA cable for 5,800 yen. This page features the Ask Nintendo queue and a section. Question 6 asks about toon shading in The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Nintendo explains it's a technique making 3D graphics appear like 2D animation, enhancing the visual style and reducing motion sickness. Question 7 talks about Metroid Prime, with Nintendo stating it's been receiving great reviews in America and is highly praised. Question 8 asks about upcoming events for the Famicom's 20th anniversary. Nintendo mentions the Next Generation World Hobby Fair, where F-Zero GC will be playable. They also have events in several locations including Makuhari Messe, Nagoya Dome, and Fukuoka Dome. They are also planning more events, possibly tied to the Famicom anniversary, and Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, with opportunities to get unlimited tickets. Question 9 asks for an update on GB Music, a new music genre planned for Game Boy Advance. This page features the Ask Nintendo Q&A section, diving into some interesting questions and Nintendo's responses. The page starts with a section highlighting upcoming games and a mention of the GB Music software, which allows you to turn your GBA into 50 different musical instruments. And you can even create village melodies from Animal Crossing on the Game Boy player. Question 10 asks if Nintendo ever develops software for other makers. Nintendo responds that it's not impossible, mentioning collaborations like Power Pros with Konami and the potential for other RPGs. Question 11 wants more information about the Game Boy player for the GameCube. Nintendo says they can't reveal many details yet, but emphasizes the improved graphics on the television, enhanced by the GameCube hardware. It's being called clear and beautiful graphics. The weight is 370 grams, and that is about 1/4 the weight of the GameCube. The page also addresses rumors of a new hardware collaboration between Nintendo and NEC, stating it's false, and reiterating that Nintendo is focused on the GameCube. A Game Boy player is shown connected to a GameCube. A Question Wanted section encourages readers to send in their questions about Nintendo's hardware, software, and characters. The next page, titled, Hoo Hoy, There's a Life You Can Only Taste in the Game, showcases user-submitted content for Animal Crossing. It encourages players to share their town's designs and highlights fan-created designs, including a Pikachu design and a link from Ocarina of Time design from a user called Kamui Mayu, with the creator's custom catchphrase, Dosukoi. There are photos of clay models of the villager Olivia, plus villagers Ruse, Punjiro, and Vanilla, with the creator, Krimaru, staging the characters in garden settings. Also featured are snapshots from players' towns, with a beach scene submitted by a player from Gunma Prefecture. The page also peeks into the editor's town, highlighting interesting aspects, such as a heart-shaped pond and unique house interiors. This page features more user-submitted content for Animal Crossing. One section, Tanukichi Forever, showcases a tribute to Tom Nook, submitted by Yotameshi from Hokkaido, who humorously laments the character's overwork. There is another user submission from Haniwa-kun, featuring a small snippet of dialogue from the game. Another section, Tanukichi Award, congratulates Hittenbo from Tokyo for their submission, which includes soccer goals and a creative use of design signboards. The page also includes unique room designs and gardens. There's also a segment called Island of Giving, which features a flag designed with Hylian text. The page also has the GameCube backpack prize reveal for user submissions, plus a Star Fox Adventure t-shirt. It shows a GameCube backpack as a prize for the Tanukichi Award. Submissions can include town layouts, villager interactions, or creative uses of in-game items. The page also displays several Animal Crossing villagers: Rolled, Hopper, Aurora, Puck, Cube, Frigga, Gwen, and Octavian. The next page is an informational page about the Mystic Ticket event in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. It details how to obtain the ticket at the next World Hobby Fair or Pokemon Centers until March 2nd. The page explains how to use the ticket to access Southern Island by taking a ferry from Lily Cove City after entering the Hall of Fame. It also mentions meeting Lechishas in Ruby and Lechios in Sapphire, and checking a stone monument in the forest. Additionally, it describes the item Soul Dew and its effect on Lashas and Lashios. The next page promotes the new Pokemon card series based on Ruby and Sapphire, set to release in late January. The starter decks, focusing on Trico, Torchic, and Mudkip, each cost 900 yen, while booster packs are priced at 300 yen. Also, the page is recruiting members for the Pokemon Card Players Club with events and exclusive merchandise. The page also features Pokemon Center news for February, highlighting the monthly Pikachu plush series, priced at 1,200 yen. Additionally, it showcases Pokemon-themed craft tape in red and blue, priced at 560 yen each. The page ends with an anecdote titled, "The C.'s First Experience," questioning what to do with it. The review mentions a family of 4 living in a 2DK apartment and the struggles of organizing the closet. The reviewer responds to someone asking about it, and that they are throwing things out. The next page of Capcom Mania in Volume 12 is all about New Year's presents. This page features a section called Craftsman's Workshop, highlighting the work environments of 2 game directors, Hideki Kamiya, director of Beautiful Joe, and Kuki Kato, director of Dead Phoenix. Kamiya's desk is shown to be filled with toys, particularly hero figures like Kamen Rider. The page mentions his gift of a Devil May Cry soundtrack DVD book signed and given away to one lucky winner. Kato's desk is much tidier, though his co-workers joke that he rushed to clean it before the interview. His desk is decorated with a strange stuffed animal. He is giving away a body blade exercise tool. Lastly, this page has an ad for a Biohazard, Resident Evil, leather jacket, priced at 40,000 yen. There is also a promotion for the new eCap.com homepage corner, Kana and Maito's Puchi Cap, featuring a navigator named Kazuna Urasawa. This page continues the Capcom Mania theme with a focus on mobile gaming and New Year's presents from eCapcom. The top section promotes new mobile games, Rockman, Mega Man, for iMode 504i, featuring classic gameplay and boss battles. There's also Sasukachi Go Home for EZ+, a puzzle game featuring Sasukachi from the Vampire series. Access methods and costs for these games are detailed. The Final Fight game for J-Ski 5X series is also promoted, highlighting its side-scrolling action and familiar characters like Cody and Hager. The rest of the page showcases New Year's presents from eCap.com. These include a Resident Evil STARS t-shirt, Resident Evil Virus liquid keychains, a Rockman XE Music Collection CD, a Resident Evil mobile phone strap, a Street Fighter t-shirt with Chun-Li, and Resident Evil caution bandanas. The page features comments from fans and illustrations, particularly around the Rockman XE series. This page delves into Sega's development studios, with interviews and behind-the-scenes commentary. The page spotlights interviews with key individuals, including Masue Otanishi from Amusement Vision, who shares insights on the marketing of Super Monkey Ball 2 and how it was perceived differently in the US. Takashi Nishiyama from Sonic Team discusses the importance of character consistency in the Sonic universe, explaining why color variations of Sonic in fighting games are avoided. The page also introduces the Moro aliens from Space Channel 5, explaining their presence in the publication is due to a request from UGA after a previous editorial defeat. Additionally, the page includes fan contributions, such as letters and artwork. One fan expresses their anticipation for a new F-Zero game. There's also an offer for presents and content from fans. The next page continues the Sega theme, focusing on development studios, interviews, and fan contributions. There's an interview with sound creator Tomoko Sasaki, who mentions her love for the Pikmin series on GameCube and collecting Sonic merchandise. The page also features a conversation with Narrated game artist-producer Noriko Okamura, who discusses her work on Space Channel 5 and Rez, and expresses a desire to create games for both male and female audiences, with UGA currently working on titles for GameCube and Game Boy Advance. Sketches show the Moro aliens are being featured, and one drawing says, "Let's take over Nintendo this time." The page also announces an extension to the Sega Rally Time Attack event with a GBASP as a prize, and invites fans to participate using a technical mountain course with freedom in car selection and tuning. The participation details ask for a postcard with address, name, age, phone number, and mountain course time. This page is titled Mario Supporters Squad, and it's a showcase of fan-submitted illustrations. The editor, styled as Keinichi General, welcomes everyone. The illustrations feature artwork inspired by various games. There's art of Link from The Legend of Zelda. Various Zelda games are mentioned, including Wind Waker, The Sacred Sword, The Minish Cap, and Ocarina of Time. There's a drawing of a character from Rockman XE3, Mega Man Battle Network 3, Also a piece featuring the heroine from Shinyaku Seiken Densetsu, Sword of Mana. The page includes the names and prefectures of the artists who submitted the work. The next page features fan art submissions from readers. One artist's sibling got married, and the editor congratulates them. Artwork includes the Guilty Gear and Super Smash Bros. Series. Someone mentions how fun the game is for everyone. Another artist drew their interpretation of a scene from Fire Emblem, The Sealed Sword, finding the twins from the game cute. A drawing of Sheik from The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Also a scene featuring Link is depicted waiting by a mailbox. Submissions include Link from the GBA title, The Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap. Someone drew a winter-themed illustration, even though it's past New Year's. A piece featuring characters from the game, Crime and Punishment for the Nintendo 64.
There's fan art of the main characters from the beat-em-up game, PN.03, and another of the wolf character from Star Fox, and some art of characters from the game Rockman.x. This page showcases 4-panel comic strips contributed by readers, themed around Nintendo games. One comic references Resident Evil, with a humorous take on partner swapping. Another involves a man encountering a hey-ho character from Super Mario, aging him at 39 years old. Then there's a comic about the allure of the baton, or tact, from the Wind Waker, showing Link's laundry being blown away and missing his family. Lastly, a comic about Link from the Minish Cap helping fairies, giving them gifts, and living a small life. Other comics are included that have more niche fan art. One comic features a Pikmin from the Pikmin games. Another stars Fox McCloud from the Star Fox series. A comic about Kirby from the Kirby series, being able to absorb anything, even copy hats, and references the GameCube title Kirby Air Ride. One comic features Samus from Metroid, humorously dealing with the X-Parasite and referencing a doctor. Another is about Link from the Legend of Zelda series blowing the Deku Leaf. The next page is a collection of reader-submitted illustrations, celebrating various Nintendo games. One illustration features Link and Zelda from the Legend of Zelda series. Another illustration features Mario. This illustration is to be loved by the artist's mother, as well as a GBA version of Link. One more illustration has a focus on enjoying the series as a whole. Other games featured in illustrations include Advance Wars, Resident Evil 4, Klonoa, Baten Kaitos, Street Fighter, Sonic Adventure, and Dead Phoenix. Fan favorite characters like Falco from Star Fox, Chun-Li from Street Fighter, Cream the Rabbit from Sonic Advance, and the Chocobo from Final Fantasy. The illustrations are sent from artists all over Japan. There is also references to The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Mario Sineita's reader submission showcases various aspirations tied to Nintendo games. He hopes to draw many illustrations for a GameCube, master the manly path inspired by Captain Falcon, and achieve a clear all in a specific game. Other goals include gaining 30 Mothra fans, and depicting specific effects like shadowing and the Triforce. The submissions span Pikmin, Star Fox, Chibi, Phantasy Star Online, Super Smash Bros., Pokemon, and Ocarina of Time, reflecting a diverse range of Nintendo interests. This page features reader-submitted illustrations and fan letters. The theme for issue 85 was Favorite Character, and issue 86 is Number 1 Game. There are illustrations of Sephiria and Princess Peach. Underage illustrators include artwork of games such as Ocarina of Time, Pokemon, and Kirby. Several fan letters praise the illustrations in the magazine. This page also features Tingle from The Legend of Zelda, alongside submission guidelines for illustrations. The next page delves into the world of The Lord of the Rings, coinciding with the release of the GameCube title. It begins by exploring the origins of the story, starting with Bilbo Baggins' acquisition of the One Ring in The Hobbit. The text describes Gollum, the creature corrupted by the ring, and Gandalf's eventual realization of the ring's power, leading him to task Frodo Baggins with its destruction. The page concludes with a description of the One Ring's power. This page is about the Hobbit race from The Lord of the Rings and the GameCube game, describing their characteristics. Peaceful, lovers of well-tilled land, and about 60,120 centimeters tall, with reddish cheeks and hairy feet. Hobbits live in hobbit holes and dislike swimming. Hobbits are reclusive. Bilbo and Frodo are unusual for going on adventures. And the text also discusses the pipeweed culture of hobbits and their custom of smoking it. It mentions brands of pipeweed, like Old Toby and Southern Star. The page shows an image of a hobbit character, a hobbit hole, and talks about the hobbits' love of food, specifically that they eat 6 meals a day, with mushrooms being a favorite. In the movie adaptation, there is a joke that is mentioned, where the hobbit, Pippin, complains about meals during their journey.
The next page delves into the lore of the dwarves from The Lord of the Rings, focusing on their craftsmanship with iron, gems, and gold. It mentions their origins in the Dark Ages and their resilience. The text describes their great hall, Khazad-dûm, later known as Moria, and the mining of Mithril. The dwarves awakened a Balrog, leading to their expulsion. The page then explores the power of darkness, focusing on Melkor, later known as Morgoth, and his lieutenant Sauron, the Dark Lord, and the Rings of Power. It mentions the Nazgûl, former kings of men corrupted by the rings. The page features images of a dwarf, a mithril shirt, a Balrog, orcs, and Nazgûl. This page focuses on the elves and wizards, Istari, from The Lord of the Rings, and their lore. The elves are described as immortal beings who grow in wisdom and justice, living in Middle-earth, and linked to the stars. The page describes their homeland of Eladamar and their departure, with many sailing to the Undying Lands. It also features Elbereth Gilthoniel. The Istari, wizards, were spirits sent from the Undying Lands to Middle-earth. The page notes they were embodied as old men, and forbade them from exerting overt power, but were allowed to influence within defined limits. It mentions Gandalf, who played a vital role, with Radagast the Brown being known for his knowledge of herbs and beasts, and Saruman the White, who initially led the Istari. Also it notes two others who went to the east. The page also includes images of an elf, Gandalf, a white-robed figure, and Radagast with the eagle Gwahir. The next page explores the setting of The Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth, with the premise that it's not just a fictional world, but an ancient version of Earth from a mythological age. It begins with the singular god, Ele. The page details Arda's creation from the songs of the Ainur and their role, highlighting key figures like Gandalf and Sauron. The text goes on to describe Arda's different ages, from the age of the lamps to the age of the trees, ultimately leading to the age of the sun and the awakening of humans. A map of Middle-earth is shown, and it highlights key locations, such as Mordor, home to Barad-dûr, the Grey Havens in Eriador, Numenor, built by the Valar, and the Undying Lands. Numenor, also called the Land of the Gift, or Star Isle, was eventually destroyed by the gods, sinking into the sea. This event reshaped the world from a flat disk into a globe. The legend of Numenor evolved into the myth of Atlantis. The text mentions the rise of the Dunedain, descendants of whom include Aragorn, and also speaks of the wars against Sauron. The Undying Lands were moved beyond the circles of the world, accessible only to those chosen. This page continues the deep dive into the world of Lord of the Rings, focusing on the death of men and the fate of the Dunedain after the fall of Numenor. Those faithful to the Valar fled to Middle-earth, led by Elendil and his sons Isildur and Anarion, establishing kingdoms there. The article recounts the alliance between elves and men, the defeat of Sauron, and the tragic deaths of Elendil and Anarion. It mentions Isildur's corruption by the One Ring, his death, and the ring's long absence before being found by Gollum. The article then talks about the Third Age of the Sun, during which the events of The Lord of the Rings take place, including the discovery of the One Ring by the Hobbits and the rise of Sauron. An image of Aragorn, the 16th chieftain of the Dunedain, is shown. The page also includes a review of the book. It mentions the author, who is named Nakawe Shigehisa, had a strong feeling about the movie being released. The reviewer shares personal memories of reading The Lord of the Rings as a student, and states they wish the reader to prepare themselves for the movie release. There's also artwork of the Argonath, the Pillars of the Kings, and a small illustration of a person reading who is the author, Nakawe. This page discusses the origins of the fantasy RPG genre, starting with J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. The author reflects on how fantasy stories were once considered only for children, but Tolkien believed they could also resonate with adults. The article mentions that Tolkien began writing in 1930, finishing approximately 20 years later. It also touches on the creation of the Elven language, and mentions that the author of the article, referred to as Uheo, thinks the language was likely a fun project for Tolkien, given his linguistic background. The author is excited for the next segment for the GBA, which will be a classic-style RPG. BO reflects on the current state of RPGs, reminiscing about the joy of crafting stories in them. He wonders where that feeling has gone, noting that it seems lost in the modern gaming industry. He proposes going old school, and aims to create a no man's land for the next GBA project, encouraging readers to brace themselves for the unexpected. There are images of classic RPG dice. The tip states readers should have dice ready for next time. 6-sided dice will be sufficient. Finally, there's a Gosshawker news section, showcasing Gosshawker badges. The editor has made 2 designs, one for underlings and another for executives, and are sending one to Asahi of Gosshawker Okayama. 5 badges are being given to readers who write, "I want it," on the questionnaire postcard. This GameCube review of Turok. Evolution praises its evolved graphics, enemy AI, and improved load times compared to previous 64 entries. The reviewer highlights excellent music, smooth gameplay, and thrilling flight shooting sections,
particularly the Pteranodon tank battles.
However, significant load times, a major drawback for Nintendo gamers, dramatically lower the final score from an initial 80 to 50. The reviewer jokingly dedicates a corner to the game, showcasing screenshots of various game elements, including a dinosaur in scope, jungle environments, and a loading screen. The reviewer also encourages reader feedback on underappreciated games. The next page features a humorous comic strip with characters who seem to be from various video game franchises. The comic begins with a character in armor presenting special Unikuri.
Samus Aran, the protagonist from the Metroid series, wonders what Unikuri is. Another character identifies a floating Metroid, which the armored character recognizes as a life energy draining creature. The characters then discuss the Metroid's interactions with the armored character and their master. Samus is concerned about the danger, and in the final panel the armored character is startled by something.
The next page continues the comic strip.
Starfy, the legendary character, is introduced, seemingly having recharged with some unknown energy.
A black, bird-like character, possibly a minion, is absorbing the life energy of subordinate A, causing concern. The master can see A's health gauge, which is convenient. A is losing HP while eating curry, but then energy replenishment exceeds the absorption, leading to victory, leaving some characters puzzled about what these guys are. The bottom caption notes that Minion A is in charge of food, and teases that next time, Gosshawker, having noticed Metroid's abilities, will go to the limit of evil. It also questions what Samus is up to. This page, Dream Technique's Hideout, provides unlock secrets for various games. For Sonic Advance 2, it details unlocking extra stages and modes, including True Area 53 and Hidden Mode Open, tied to completing specific challenges. Super Monkey Ball 2 tips include unlocking bonus modes and hidden levels by collecting all party games and using play points to buy movies and monkeys. Unlocking hidden levels in Tatsujin and Tatsujin X requires completing specific stages without continuing. Finally, Super Robot Taisen Original Generation secrets cover unlocking units like Lion 4 and Jespenst Rar, along with weapons and parts like the Shishu Blade and Mark of the Brave. This issue highlights the King of Fighters X2 Howling Blood for GBA, showcasing unlockable content for mastering characters, including unique modes and shortcuts. A reader's discovery of Yuri Sakazaki's secret is featured. A Dream Technique contest encourages player submissions for prizes, up to 10,000 yen worth of toys. Tips for writing effective postcards are provided. A hypothesis, Dream Present's Hideout section hints at an upcoming title logo for Dream Present. Reader submissions also include tips for GameCube's The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, Super Famicom's Fire Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War, Nintendo 64's The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, GameCube's Super Smash Bros. DX, and Super Mario Collection's Super Mario Bros. 3. The next page highlights Mega Man Battle Network 3 Black for the Game Boy Advance, showcasing the new Navi customization style. This version includes changes from the original, such as modified styles, new Navy characters, and Giga-class chips. The game features a limited edition Navi called Bowman, replacing Mistman from the original version. Bowman's design consists of bowling ball-like structures. The page mentions that the game is being previewed at the 17th Next Generation World Hobby Fair in Tokyo, Nagoya, and Fukuoka, before its release. It is listed as a data-action RPG, supporting 12 players with GBA cable compatibility, and priced at 4,800 yen. This page features 2 Game Boy Advance titles. The first is Sonic Pinball Party, a pinball game featuring popular characters from Sonic Team, including Sonic, Knights, and Samba de Amigo. Each table has unique gimmicks, such as KO raising on the Sonic table and Eggman appearing on another. The game supports 14 players and is compatible with GBA and GC-GBA link cables, with a summer release date planned. The second game is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Children Puzzle de Cool, a puzzle game set in the world of Devil Children. Players control either Rand or Gale, navigating stages by moving obstacles to reach the exit. The game features story, puzzle, and race modes, supporting 12 players. The page highlights the goal of clearing stages with as few steps as possible, and mentions collecting allies in story mode. The next page features a couple of Game Boy Advance games. First up is Zoids Saga 2, a role-playing game that brings together characters from the Zoids anime and games, including Zoids Versus and Zoids Saga I. It features over 140 Zoids, which can be customized for battle in an attempt to restore a world that has undergone dimensional fusion. The main character, Zero, gets caught up in the adventure and embarks on a journey through distorted space-time. An original Zoid, Blitz Tiger, makes its debut, becoming a key ally to the protagonist. Limited editions of the game include a special diorama figure of a bloody death soarer. The second game is Naruto Action. This is a side-scrolling action game where you play as Naruto, using ninjutsu to overcome obstacles and solve mysteries. The game features iconic scenes and special moves from the comic and anime.
Lastly, Roadrunner makes a return as an action puzzle game.
This version features map viewing, adjustable speed, and other fine-tuned improvements. The goal is to collect all the gold in the level and reach the exit, and you can trap enemies in holes to hinder their progress. There is also an edit mode for creating original stages. This page presents Super Puzzle Bobble All-Stars for the Nintendo GameCube. It's a familiar puzzle game featuring Taito's Bublun character. The game introduces new modes like 4P Battle, where 4 players can compete simultaneously, and Shoot Bubble, a mode where bubbles fall in real time. There are screenshots showing different game modes, including CPU Battle Mode, 1P Puzzle Mode, and 2P Battle Mode. In 2P Battle Mode, clearing bubbles on your field can disrupt your opponent. The bottom half of the page features 2 Game Boy Advance titles. The first is Dancing Sword, Senko.
It's a rhythm action game where you control 5 female swordswomen, featuring character designs by Ito Noisy.
The game emphasizes rhythm-based button presses for powerful special attacks, with voice acting by notable voice actors like Tomoko Kawakami. The second GBA game is Get Backers da Kanya, Metropolis da Kansakusen, a role-playing game based on the manga series. You team up with a partner, strengthening your bond to execute special attacks and support moves. Genji and Ban are featured, and the game uses a top-down perspective. This page is a full-page advert for the Ruby and Sapphire Strategy Guide, including a complete Pokédex released on January 31st. It details Pokémon locations and how to win contests. A second edition of the Scenario Clear book is now available. The game includes an advert for Nintendo Dream where you can get a free toy. A list of winners who have previously won are listed as well. It covers information on Pokémon locations, Pokémon contests, Pokémon moves, Pokémon types. The games listed for sale include Luigi's Mansion, Wave Race, Blue Storm,
Pikmin, Super Smash Bros. Melee,
Ansei Scene, Animal Crossing Plus, Animal Leader, Super Mario Sunshine, Star Fox Adventures, Eternal Darkness, Mario Party 4,
Pokémon Stadium Gold and Silver,
Tactics Ogre Gaiden, Mario Kart Advance, Golden Sun Wario Land Advance, Magical Vacation, Super Mario Advance 2, Tomato Adventure, Fire Emblem Sealing Blade, Golden Sun Lost Age, Sakura Momoko Ukiyuki Carnival, Custom Robo GX, Super Mario Advance 3, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, Kururin Paradise, Mario Tennis GB, Pokémon Crystal version, Legend of Zelda. A Nintendo GameCube software catalog lists upcoming games, including action titles like The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Spider-Man, Mega Man X7 and PN.03, fighting games like Soul Calibur 2 and Naruto, Narutomate Hero, a racing game, Kirby Air Ride, and role-playing games, Giftpia, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Rune 2, and a new RPG from the Xenosaga team. The catalog also includes ports of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. Nemesis. A key explains genre classifications. The inclusion of Kirby Air Ride and the discontinuation of Rollorama are noted, prompting a question about gameplay carryover. Please provide the text you would like me to summarize. The next page previews upcoming GameCube titles for the first half of 2003. First, there's 1080° Silverstorm, a snowboarding game slated for release next winter. Then there's Mario Tennis GC, also scheduled for next winter, alongside Nippon Professional Baseball, a baseball game with famous manga players and real baseball players. Nintendo Puzzle Collection will be released on February 7th. Super Puzzle Bobble All-Stars is slated for February 27th, and Dokapon DX for March 6th, the latter being a board game RPG hybrid. Also, Animal Crossing 2 is in the works, with further details to come. A list of released GameCube titles follows, including Super Monkey Ball, Luigi's Mansion, Pikmin, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and many other titles, including RPG, Adventure, Puzzle, Table, and Simulation. The page also mentions that the company is releasing Metal Max 2 Kai and Metal Max Returns Kai this spring. This page showcases Nintendo Dream Volume 84, dated February 21st to March 6th, 2003. It previews the next issue, Volume 85, scheduled for release on February 21st, and highlights an interview with Yasumi Matsuno about Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. The next issue will cover Zero and Soul Calibur 2 events, plus Metroid Prime. There's an editor's voice section with staff comments, mentioning Pokemon, Soul Calibur 2, A Broken Bicycle, and GBASP. The page also features a retro ad for the NES game Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Staff credits, addresses for Nintendo Dream, and email addresses for fan submissions are listed too. The next page is an advertisement for the Game Boy Advance game Aeralex. It showcases various characters, including Skip Prince, as well as enemies and townspeople, along with gameplay screenshots. The ad emphasizes the game's elemental ring system, which allows the player to transform into 3 elements and defeat monsters. It also highlights features such as automatic difficulty adjustment, pursuit scroll system, and beat system. The tagline promotes the thrill of defeating enemies and solving puzzles in this new action-adventure game. The game is priced at 4,800 yen. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo GameCube Game Boy player, released in March 2003. It allows Game Boy Advance games to be played on a TV using the GameCube console. The ad features a screenshot of Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire being played on a TV, showcasing a battle between the player's Pokemon Torchic, Zigzagoon, Mudkip, and Poochyena, and an opposing Torchic. The Game Boy player was priced at 5,000 yen. Additionally, the advertisement includes images of the Ruby and Sapphire Game Boy Advance game boxes. The page also includes Nintendo's website address and copyright information.